This is the world where elements of virtual reality have merged with reality. Numerous individuals have gained new professions and skills. Consequently, countless dungeons, ruins, and even mysterious realms have emerged, and within them, monsters existed. In turns, people can enter these places to gain experiences and equipment. However, despite the countless species of creatures, none come close to the existence of dragons. They are mysterious and rare, but primarily as powerful as deities. In the realm of dragons of the third school, someone knocks on the board, indicating that orientation for the awakening day is about to begin. The teacher warns that this will affect not only their entrance to university, but also all future success. Although the outcome of the ceremony is determined by luck, everyone there must have confidence. Basically, it's telling them to be a bunch of deluded individuals. In the background, we see a rather emo-looking guy, so we already know he's probably the protagonist. In front of him is the paper to fill out the aptitude test. He's excited. The day has finally arrived. His name is Lu Fan, a person who was transmigrated to this world 3 years ago. After some time in this world, he discovered that there are 3 types of classes here. There are combat classes, such as warriors, mages, and archers. They are the ones who can go to the realms and obtain rare equipment, and thus they are the classes most desired by people. Then there are professions like enchanters and alchemists, those who make life easier for explorers and assist them in some way. And finally, there are classes like cooks and miners, which comprise the majority of people and can only survive on the minimum wage they receive. His aunt named Han Ki has been supporting him in school, sustaining them both with a bread shop. She takes care of him without worrying about herself, even though she is only 8 years older. To survive in this world and help his aunt, he needs to awaken a combat profession. Suddenly, the teacher receives a call and informs the class that he has received information that the awakening platform is available, and they are going there now, and everyone is excited. But our emo protagonist is a bit hesitant. The teacher, whose hair looks like a headset, comes to ask him why he's so apprehensive. He's one of the best students. He doesn't need to be anxious. But well, at that moment, Lu Fan gets a shock. The treasure map system has been successfully activated. The teacher knocks on the table, asking if he's listening. He apologizes and runs off like a fool. He's all excited as he goes downstairs. He has finally received the system. It doesn't make sense for someone to be sent to another world just to suffer. He has no idea what this system does. But now the boy knows that something good awaits him. He's eager to get to the ceremony and awaken his profession soon. All the students gather in front of the principal. Lu Fan passes through the crowd, where everyone is talking about being anxious to awaken a class profession and make millions. Gandalf announces that the ceremony is about to begin and that the priest over there will assist them this year. Looking at the priest, Lu Fan realizes that the guy has a dominant aura. The system gives him the first function, the Eye of Analysis. As he looks at the priest, an interface with his face appears, and he clicks. Profession, level 29 priest with the ability to awaken professions. He gets a shock when he sees that the guy is worth 5 million. Gandalf tells everyone to be quiet. Everyone falls silent immediately, and he announces that the names called are to come up there. While Lu Fan is thinking that even if his aunt worked her whole life, she wouldn't be able to earn all of that. The first name called is Zhang Tao, and people seem to recognize him as one of the best students. With colorful hair and 2 meters tall, we know he's going to be trouble for our protagonist. The girls are in love, saying they love the guy. The priest begins the process using awakening spells. Zhang seems confident. A golden fireball begins to appear in front with some inscriptions. People recognize this awakening as being from a pyromancer or someone who uses fire abilities. He seems comfortable with the warm ball in his hand, and people are impressed with his ability. Seeing this, Lu Fan thinks that if he can also awaken a combat class, he can say goodbye to poverty. A kid awakens as a herbalist and says he'll continue his family's steps. However, a huge buff guy awakens as a tailor and isn't happy. The skinny guy awakens as a miner. I guess fate wants him to become muscular. Seeing this, Lu Fan realizes that only a minority awakens the combat profession. After the awakening ceremony, he returns home. He checks the system and sees that he awakened as a dragon tamer. Opinions were divided on this class since it's very difficult to tame a dragon. It's a strong class, but difficult to take advantage of. It's already extremely rare to encounter a dragon, let alone tame one. Gandalf told Lu Fan that he didn't need to worry. It was a difficult class, but it had infinite potential. Maybe he could find a dragon subspecies like a lizard, but Lu Fan knew the only way for him to be strong with this profession was with a dragon. Otherwise, it made no sense. The subspecies were just ferocious lizards, nothing compared to a true dragon. In the last 800 years of Dragon Kingdom history, some tamers have appeared, but someone who truly tamed a dragon never existed. No matter how strong a human is in front of a dragon, they are nothing but ants. Lu Fan knows that dreaming of taming a true dragon is too distant a dream. The worst part is that without a tamed dragon, he can't evolve or awaken his abilities. He has been working so hard to provide a better life for his aunt, but now with this class, it won't be so easy. He realizes he's in front of his house and hadn't even noticed that the way passed because he's so worried. He hesitates a bit at the door and enters, greeting his aunt, who obviously is in delight with the food she makes. She makes warm little bread rolls and throws two to our protagonist. She grabs his hand, saying she's sure today was the most fantastic day of his life. Sitting at the table, she asks what profession he awakened. Poor aunt doesn't know that, in fact, there's a failure in front of her. He didn't even get to say anything when she already says it's okay if it's not a combat profession. She was actually worried he would go out to fight every day, but he yells that's not the case. In fact, he managed to become a dragon tamer. The only problem is that he doesn't do anything without a dragon. She smiles and tells him it doesn't matter if he's a dragon tamer without a dragon. It shows how strong he is. She puts his head back on the warm and delicious bread rolls and says that if he goes to school, she'll keep supporting him. And if he doesn't want to, he can stay here in the aunt's shop taking care of her warm little bread rolls, with her. The protagonist feels a bit embarrassed and she tells him not to worry and eat quickly before it gets cold. Sometime later, he collapses on the bed. Remembering her hand full of wounds from cooking so much to support them both, he realizes he won't be able to get them out of this bad life. He hits the bed in anger. Damn it, why did it have to be such a good and bad profession at the same time? Suddenly, the system appears. Congratulations, you received the treasure of the first day. He gets scared because it shows that the treasure will be a divine level item. He remembers that the system's function was to help find treasure. So he clicks and the system shows. There will be beginner, intermediate, advanced, divine treasures, and by combining 3 maps of the same level, he can receive a map for the rarest treasure possible. Every day you will receive a treasure map corresponding to his profession. The profession he has is the worst of the rare ones, but it can be the best of all as long as he can take advantage of this system. This first map he receives, strangely, is of divine ranking. In other words, maybe this is his chance to change everything. He can't give up now and stay at the bottom of society. He has to go wherever it is. The map shows the location of the treasure on Mount Shibusen, a region from level 10 to 20. He knows it's not far from the city of Yangai. If he catches the last subway, he can get there by tomorrow. So the night passes, and the most dangerous aunt of all stories wakes up, as always very healthy. She sees there's a letter on the table and realizes Lu Fan has left. He's already on the bus, and he told her not to worry that he's headed to Mount Shibusen. This might be his only chance to change his fate as a dragon tamer. She doesn't need to worry. He'll be back soon, ensuring they have a good life. Our protagonist arrives at the mountain, and suddenly someone bumps into him. A 16-meter buff guy and a girl with pink hair say hello. Another person touches his shoulder. A not-so-suspicious old man asks if he wants to go with them. Lu Fan says no. He knows very well. These guys are dungeon bandits. And the girl with pink hair says he's cute and should go with her to do some sticky and warm things. Lu Fan knows these guys must be stealing materials from everyone who arrives in this place, so dealing with him will be too easy for them. Lu Fan prepares himself, knowing something bad is coming. Once again, the guys ask if he wants to go with them. Lu Fan turns around, saying he already said no, he's fine. The old man says he doesn't understand the rules of the wilderness, and that the dangers at night are greater than he imagines. Lu Fan knows that without any power, he can't get into any conflict. So he tells the guys he's a summoner, and if anything happens, he'll summon some creatures and be fine. The guys seem a bit impressed, and the old man says it seems they don't need to worry, so they leave. But the girl whispers in his ear that she's looking forward to meeting this handsome guy again in the dungeon, and blows him a kiss as she leaves. Lu Fan knows it's much more dangerous to be close to these guys than to be alone in the jungle. He opens the map, thinking he needs to get out of there quickly. The forest seems empty. He walks around looking from bush to bush, and he finds a creature that looks like a horse with a human face and horn. They are passive, but if they get angry, he'll be in trouble. He wanted to avoid this path, but he has no choice. So he walks calmly through everything, praying not to be attacked. He's sweating but confident he's almost there, when suddenly he steps on a toad, making a loud noise. The horned horses stare at him. He starts screaming and tries to run. Now he's screwed. He'll have to escape from this. He manages to jump to the side and the animals pass, and he sees that the toad he stepped on is finished. But this made him realize that he can't even deal with such a simple creature right now. If he misses the map's opportunity, the destiny will be the same as the toad's. He sees on the map that it's showing he's on top of the location, and he gets excited when he realizes he really made it to the place. In front of 2 stone pillars with a red light, he enters to see what it is. And obviously, it's the only thing that can change the fate of a dragon tamer. A black dragon egg. He realizes it's cracking, which means it's about to hatch, but then he hears some sounds nearby. And he prepares a blade, thinking things were too easy. A fox attacks him, but he manages to stop it with the blade, but instead of being cut, it bites him. Lu Fan struggles to hold the creature. He takes advantage of it being trapped and throws it to the ground. The fight has just begun, and he's already tired. And the system shows it's a bloodthirsty gray fox. Furthermore, it can recover life by hitting him, and it makes it an immortal creature for him, as he can't cause enough damage at once. With no abilities, he'll have difficulty dealing with this. The fox is attacking him while he's thinking the only way out is for the egg to hatch. Because of this distraction, he gets a cut on his arm. He knows the fox, now that it's stolen his blood, will use an ability. It attacks again, and and he uses the blade to defend, almost breaking it. However, now it's coming at him with the other claw, and he has nothing to do. To dodge, he throws himself backward and finds an opening. With the bent blade, he manages to stab it into the ground, receiving 120 experience for killing the fox. The boy is exhausted but has really dealt with it. Suddenly, he hears a voice saying it's impressive that he killed that. It's the group from before, and the old man says he's an amazing kid. Lu Fen asks why they're following him since he said he didn't want to join the group. The girl and the old man say they know very well he lied to them and he's not the summoner. Lu Fen hesitates and kicks the fox, saying if they want it, they can have it. The fox falls at the old man's feet, who smiles, picks it up by the tail, and says it's only worth 80 coins. What they want isn't that, they're staring at the dragon egg. Lu Fen is startled, and now he's screwed. It's his only chance to change his life. Before he can move, the giant and the girl are already face to face with him. He takes a punch and ends up dropping the blade, being dragged across the ground. Suddenly, the girl has the blade at his neck, telling him not to move. He's on the ground suffering from the 3 weapons she's pointing at him. Suddenly, the buff guy comes running and tells them to look at what he found. Lu Fen is startled, and the old man says it's perfect. Now they just have to kill him. With her tongue out, she says it's a shame, but they'll have to say goodbye. Lu Fen can't believe he's going to miss the only chance to become a dragon tamer. Suddenly, the egg starts to crack and something comes out of it. Everyone looks up, and there's a little dragon in the sky. It descends towards the guys to attack. The old man tries to stop it by throwing a green potion, but the dragon observes it and easily dodges it. The buff guy approaches to try to punch it, but the dragon opens its mouth and claws and goes through him, tearing him apart. His head falls to the ground, and the old man is shocked. The dragon faces the old man, and he's desperate. He looks back asking for help from Lu Fen and the girl. Our protagonist is impressed. He never imagined that a newly born dragon would be so powerful. She's startled and asks him what he's talking about. Is it really a dragon? Suddenly, blood spurts near them, and the old man who was there disappeared. In the dragon's mouth, you can only see the remains. The protagonist says she's an idiot and throws her to the ground, calling her feminism. He runs towards the dragon and activates the dragon taming technique. The dragon, confused also. A red aura appears in front of Lu Fen as he tells her he's not a summoner. In fact, he's a dragon tamer. In the system, it appears that the contract with the black dragon has been established. Desperate, the girl begs, saying she didn't know it was a dragon egg. But Lu Fen doesn't forgive her, not even the hottie. So he commands the dragon to attack since she's a bandit. Blood spurts, and a while later, he's resting with his little dragon. While he's applying some bandages, the dragon is looking into his backpack. He grabs him by his little arms and lifts him, saying he's a very lively dragon. Now confident that he has finally reduced the distance from weakest to strongest. The dragon has just hatched and is already so strong. He can't imagine how powerful it will be when it has more levels. And touching his face to the dragons, he says finally dragon tamers won't be considered a useless class. He starts wondering about the most important thing. What will be the name of this dragon? Will it be Little Charcoal Ball? Black Diamond? He decides to give it a name when suddenly the dragon starts shaking in his arms. A red aura starts to come out and he flies. From the flames, a face appears. Red hair, a little tail, a little wing, and it turned into a girl. Thank God she's not the waifu of this story. Otherwise, the police will knock on everyone's door in this video. Lu Fen is impressed that she has a human form. She shakes her head there, saying obviously yes. In his system, it appears that the dragon has a foreign contract. While he observes the information, she's eating dirt, clearly not right in the head. He receives some skills like, for example, a buff for the dragon and a claw strike. Her attributes at level 1 are much higher than some humans at level 20. Not to mention that the power of the bloodline doubles his stats just for making the contract. This is proof of the strength of dragons, truly one of the strongest classes. Observing her, he realizes that even though she now has a human form, she still acts like a complete dragon, and he's wondering what name to give. He says since she was born just before dawn, her name will be Xioi. Petting her, he thinks that this was dangerous but well worth it. Now it's time to hunt to fill her belly. Now that he's received this opportunity, he has to strengthen himself to the maximum until university starts. With her by his side, the dream of entering the best educational institution became possible. They were walking when they noticed something. Upon looking, they noticed a herd coming. It was a group of hyenas without level, and Lu Fen knew it was much more dangerous than that gray fox. Suddenly, smoke rises and Xiaowei goes to the skies. He realizes she wants to take the lead, and if that's the case, this mountain is no longer a danger to him. She jumps, filling her belly with air, and throws a barrage of fire and experience rains for the two. With one of her abilities, he gained a level and she gained 2. The boy is impressed with the sweep he made. He then tells her it's not even worth wasting time with these little things. While he keeps gaining experience, he's looking at a cave, saying there's something waiting for them. A paw hits the ground and 3 lion heads appear. With the most original name of all, this is a 3-headed lion, a level 25 boss. Lu Fen knows that normally a giant group would be needed to hunt this, but now that he's with Xiaowei, there's no need to fear. The lion suddenly roars, increasing his power. It starts to cast a fireball spell that takes some time to activate. Lufin warns Shoei they need to interrupt this skill. She activates a power of flames around her while Lufin is advancing. Seeing all this madness coming, the lion is even afraid. Lufin is already on top of Shoei, who is turned back into a dragon form, and uses a jaw attack to bite his head. With this, they interrupt the skill and Lufin takes advantage to attack, giving a precise blow right on top of the head. With that, the lion falls to the ground. He realizes the beast died way too easily. Not to mention he's already up to level 14 and she's up to level 9. Also, the system's cooldown just reset, so he's going to receive another treasure map. He's already excited to see what comes this time, and calls the little dragon for a stroll, in a part of the depths of the Kabaxan Mountains. The girl with blue hair tells the knight that the opportunity is very good and they can't let it pass. The knight named Sunji responds that to enter the realm of fortune they need at least 5 people. The girl named Kai, who has the profession of Heart's Bandit, says that even with her agility this journey will take a day. However, the girl carrying a staff explains that these realms appear once every 24 hours and are extremely rare. She is Kinshu and her profession is a mystery. Sunji tells her not to worry, with so much skill she will get into a good college and receive many resources. But suddenly he hears something and the 3 turn around. It's Lufin saying they don't need to be scared, he's just passing by. Sunji sees in his clothes and says that an adventurer of that level shouldn't be there, it's dangerous. But Kinkyu touches the knight's hand, talks to Lufin, introducing herself and making an offer. She invites him to join the group to enter the fruitful realm without even needing to do anything and still receive 100,000 coins at the end. Lufin seems to recognize this name of the fruitful realm and asks if she really will give 100,000 coins. She says yes, and that he doesn't need to worry. The only thing they want is a few more people to close the group. They are already 4 people, meaning that Knight, who wasn't introduced, is garbage and will die, and Sunji tells him to come quickly. But Lufin says he's not interested in money, but in participating as a member. The 3 turn somewhat startled. The Heart's Bandit asks if he really wants to compete based on performance, meaning whoever does more gets more items. And Lufin agrees. Kinchu knows they are level 20 and this boy seems very weak. What's he going to do? He'll end up with nothing. But since they need him, she accepts and says it'll be very good to cooperate. With that, they shake hands and the deal is sealed. She warns that it's time to enter, while Lufin is letting Shoei rest to only use her when really necessary. With that, they enter the realm through the portal. This is the realm of intermediate level lamentation and hard difficulty. Upon entering, Kin-Q says that place is very silent, the only thing heard is their voices. Sunji asks Lufin why he doesn't have any weapons. He stretches out his hands and flames appear. From the inventory, he takes out a dragon blade he received from the second map. Seeing the blade, Sunji says it's amazing. He thought he was trash, but is he a transfer student by any chance? Suddenly, the ground explodes with a hand coming out and decaying level 15 zombies appear. Shojia, the fighter who will definitely die, rushes forward with the advanced ability. Sunji says he did a great job and starts cutting down zombies too. Seeing the group's formation, Lufin thinks they're really well organized. Suddenly, Kinkyu raises her staff to the sky, invoking lightning, and uses a Starlight Rain ability. This ability not only strengthens allies but also damages undead creatures. She then tells Lufin she has a secret class, the Light Mage. She not only can heal but also cause damage. Suddenly, the ground trembles and Lufin knows some kind of elite boss is going to appear. A hand explodes a wall and now there are bloodthirsty zombies. Sunji tells the bandit to protect the mage and our protagonist, while he's going to advance with the warrior I'm waiting to die. He jumps and delivers a vertical cut right on the zombie's shoulder, and his friend delivers a blow right in the middle of the zombie. But he's trying to remove the blade and it's not coming back. The creature's flesh is holding the blade. These creatures can drain the life of anyone they damage with the poison they have. What we were all waiting for is finally going to happen, and this guy whose name I don't even know is going to die. Sunji ends up having to let go of his blade too, which gets stuck in the zombie's shoulder. He pushes the extra warning the bandit to help in the front line. But Lufin says it's not necessary. Already with the blade in hand and red eye, he says he'll handle it. The zombie is coming towards Lufin and Sunji is going to try to save him. But he takes a look and drives the dragon blade right into the zombie's chest. They are startled and Lufin is cutting everyone. No one there believes it and Kin is blushing. The poor knight doesn't even know what to say. Lufin hands back the sword saying they can now move forward. Sunji wants to know his level. It's impossible for someone who just awakened to be so strong. The protagonist says he's a level 14 student who came here to take the big exam. There's no reason for him to lie. Healing the guy, Kin-Q says then they are the same age, while thinking that the level 14 boy is stronger than the level 28 knight. But suddenly a bloody zombie appears next to her. The bandit goes in to steal a heart and shoot an arrow, but suddenly Lufin passes by her side and stabs the zombie in the chest. He pulls out the blade and the creature is all destroyed on the wall, warning that now the creatures will only get stronger and stronger. He's going to walk in the front line, and does anyone have a problem with that? Everyone is silent and doesn't even know what to respond. Kim Q smiles, saying it's fine. She counts on him and the knight in the front line while she helps the others. Our boy says she can call him Lufin. And now let's go deeper. The group is trailing behind him, and it seems they've heard about a certain dragon tamer who recently appeared. However, Kim Q is confused because the dragon tamer class was supposed to be the weakest. Another bloody zombie falls to the ground. They have arrived at the central village. Lufin knows that Kim Q's healing magic can't remove the poison that's been applied to the guy. Suddenly, Kair, the bandit in this case, says she feels something strange. Underneath them is a pile of debris and some zombies are coming from behind. The poison guy tries to warn that there's something coming from behind. He falls to the ground and Kim Q rushes to help, but there's a red light on his back. They hear a sound and turn to see a zombie with steel skin. Kair recognizes that as the mystical guardian. Seeing that there are some bodies stuck to the creature, Lufin warns that they need to kill it quickly before it absorbs their friend. Samye advances with a moonlight cut. However, his blade can't even scratch it. Lufin is worried since the poison on the guy is attracting a bunch of creatures. He goes up and tries to stab the monster in the face. It seems to have affected it a bit, but he'll still need a few more attacks, as the creature has 40% more defense. One of the abilities he received with the dragon blade is dragon armorization. The steel zombie uses a charge ability to go towards Kim Q. Lufin asks her to use blessing powers along with him. Activating the dragonization ability, his hand starts to transform, and Kim Q raises the staff using the light ability. The strength of this hand depends on the strength of the dragon he has a bond with. With this, he strikes right in the middle of the zombie, while Kim Q provides support. Half of the creature explodes and the people realize it's starting to disintegrate. Samye says that apparently this creature depends on continuous absorption to grow so big, while thinking that this Lufin is definitely a pro. Inside the zombie, a head with a giant eye can be seen. Kim Q recognizes that as the main body and Lufin advances, he jumps towards the monster and delivers a fiery blow right in its face. The flesh disintegrates and an explosion occurs on its back, and the boy looks all stylish. Now the gothic girl is all impressed that the realm's guardian was truly defeated, while Kim Q can't believe he really defeated a level 20 boss. From the monster, a treasure chest appears. Kim Q approaches the chest, saying they'll follow the rules and apologizes for earlier. They didn't know he was so strong. Samye also says he's really strong and could have come here alone. He then opens the chest. Lufin is curious about what's inside. A strength potion, some antidotes for the poison, and a good quality bracelet that provides strength and resistance. Samye comments that this chest is very mediocre. Lufin agrees it should have been much better for a realm like this. Kim Q hands him the best item, the bracelet, since he did more than everyone else. He equips it, receiving new stats. While she's thinking, the portal still hasn't appeared. The bandit says they need to look around then. Lufin then notices something and tells them to pay attention. In his system, it shows that Zombie wasn't the final boss of this place. Sungyet is startled, asking if he found something, and Kim Q points in a direction, saying she feels dark energy. In front of a lake, she says it's close. They say they believe her since she's a light mage. There seems to be something under the water, and upon sensing their presence, eyes appear around tentacles. Lufin realizes something is coming, and several hands emerge from the water. It's a creature of which the system has no information. Sunye recognizes immediately that it's probably the final boss. The creature is attacking, and he tells everyone to get on its back as he will protect them. The attack hits him, and he seems to resist a bit. Very little because he's already fallen to the ground, beaten up. And now the tentacles are eyeing Kim Q. I just hope the work doesn't change genders. She's protecting herself there, and Lufin advances towards the hand, which is promptly cut off. The boy is very cool and manages to save her, obviously leaving her all flushed, still sliding on the ground. Kair asks if she's okay, but before she can respond, a monster is now on their backs. They turn around to try to understand what it is, and in the midst of the massive tentacles, there's a woman with long hair. The monster is a level 25 Morning Spectre with difficulty. At that moment, they recognize it as the true final boss. Sangye once again asks them to stay behind while he tries to defend. The hand is coming to attack, and he tells everyone to move back immediately. While he defends against the creature, he tells Lufin to keep up the offense. Lufin advances, thinking that only he can deal with this since everyone else is struggling to defend themselves. Seeing the woman in the middle, he's sure that hitting her is the only way to kill this creature, but suddenly she screams. The ability she emits reduces everyone's stats by 20%. She slams a tentacle on the ground, and Lufin manages to dodge. He takes advantage of it to land with both feet and leaps towards her. The monster seems startled, and Kim too warns him to watch out for the chains. Suddenly, he's whipped by them, and the monster screams that they're grouped, sending an attack their way. The guy who was lying on the ground just 10 seconds ago gets up and defends, while a hand is going towards Lufin. Suddenly, an arrow hits right in the middle of the hand, and he realizes that even though they're struggling, the group is still trying to help him. He grabs one of the chains and uses it as a foothold to launch himself towards the creature, and he cuts through all the tentacles that were hindering them. As a result, the monster writhes in agony and uses the whip with the chain again. He narrowly dodges it. He activates the dragon transformation in his hand and cuts the chains in half. They all fall in front of the group. Sungjae says they won't be able to handle it. It's better to retreat for now. Luffy asks Sungjae to take everyone out of there. Kinchu asks what he's going to do. He says they don't need to worry, he'll just cover their retreat. Kair tells them to go quickly, while Kinchu thinks they're not able to help at all. Luffy is opening a giant red portal beside him. The monster screams in his direction, but now the boy is confident, saying she can come out now. The hand that was about to touch him gets bitten by Xiaoe. The group looks back, startled, and here comes the black dragon fighting the boss. They can't believe a child actually summoned a giant dragon, which is easily cutting through the boss's hands. The boss is writhing in pain and tries to send a chain attack, but Xiaoe easily passes through it, cutting the chains and the boss, which falls into the water without having done anything. The group is in disbelief that he killed a boss so quickly, while Qin Shu realizes he really is the rumored guy, the dragon tamer Lufin. 300 years ago, someone says she was born there and was raised under the church's protection to avoid any kind of danger, until the plague destroyed everything. Bodies piled up in the lakes with not enough graves. She desperately wanted to save everyone, so she prayed every day. But in the end, she became a hot goth, a cruel witch of darkness. She couldn't save the people, so she summoned the spirits of the dead so people could say goodbye. But the church that had sheltered her for so long accused her of causing the plague. They chained her up and dragged her through the streets. Thrown into the lake, all she wanted was to save everyone, or at least allow them to say goodbye. She did nothing wrong, and that was the story of the Morning Spectre. While the group wonders how Lufin can summon a dragon, he's asking when they're going to leave that realm. But the portal hasn't opened yet, so that means the boss hasn't died yet. The lake starts to bubble, and suddenly an explosion occurs, sending a wave towards everyone, with a monster appearing in the middle of it, evolving from a Morning Spectre to a Vengeful Spectre, which not only gave her new abilities but also greatly increased her stats. The soft-hearted bandit was trembling, unable to believe it, and the boss warned that no one would escape from there, and launched a water attack. Xiaoe has an effect that prevents her from receiving debuffs, so she defended Lufin. However, the bubble that exploded from Kair's lair trapped her in a water trap. Sunji tried to help her get free, but it was immune to physical damage. Trapped, she apologized to Qin Q, who said it was okay. She fell to her knees, saying it was all her fault for insisting on coming to this realm. Lufin asked if she was going to give up so easily. She explained that the boss was immune to physical attacks and only she had magic attacks, but she was too weak. The vengeful boss sends a hand attack towards Xiaoe, which can cause instant death or apply a debuff. Due to immunity, nothing happens, and Lufin warns that his dragon can handle it. Kair says that even though he's a dragon tamer, the level difference is still too great. The boss was preparing to attack again when Lufin said that dragons are incomparable. Xiaoe easily nullified all the effects the boss applied, and her stats increased when Lufin activated the dragon's inspiration. And immediately after, he activated the lava flame. The barrage of fire hit the boss's face, causing it to melt in front of them. No one could believe what was happening as the boss was falling apart. Suddenly, she exploded, emanating an aura that would awaken all the bodies within that realm. A chest appeared, and Xiaoe's and Lufin's levels increased. Sunji got excited, saying he could finally see the portal, but behind them, several creatures were rising. Suddenly, Xiaoe flew past them, and with a flame attack, she swept the entire field. They recognized her as the giant dragon, and Lufin said her name was Xiaoe, and these monsters were nothing but toys to her. And he turns around, saying it's better to worry about the rewards. He says that according to the rules, he will choose first and asks if anyone objects, and obviously, no one says anything. So he opens the chest, which emits a light. Inside, there's an excellent quality sacred light staff, a twilight cloak also of excellent quality, a morning ring of rare quality, and what Lufin chose was a class change scroll. It allows someone without a hidden class to have a chance to advance to a higher class. Qin Chu said it didn't make sense. That wasn't the best item he could take. He could take the rest for himself. But Lufin said it was okay. This is the item he wants, and these equipment items suit them more. She goes to the chest all greedy, saying that if it weren't for him, they would have died. And because of that, she offers him the ring. Lufin says if that's the case, he'll accept it then. And with that, the group is ready to return, while Qin Shu wonders what other secrets he holds. 4 hours later, he returned home, and this auntie came to be cute, throwing bread at his face. He told her to wait a little longer. He's still dirty and needs to take a shower. But suddenly, she started crying, saying she was worried, and hugged the boy. He apologizes for leaving only a note, and says it won't happen again. He pets her all sweetly, telling her to stop crying. This aunt is a dangerous national wish that. I've seen less passionate couples than those two. She pets Xiaoe, saying she's impressed that this cute girl really is a dragon. Lufin wants to give the scroll to his aunt while she's petting Xiaoe. He says that if she gets a better profession, she won't need to keep this store anymore. But she says it's too valuable and doesn't want to accept it. Why doesn't he sell it for money? But he shows the boy's bank account. which is already becoming a millionaire, saying he doesn't need that. She asks him to explain where he got it, and he says it was all a reward from the dungeon he participated in. He hands the scroll to her and tells her to make good use of it. When she opens it, it starts to emit a blue aura and her hair starts to float. Guys, this scroll activates a lot of nice things. He asks if she felt anything. She says it worked and her class has advanced to chef with enchantments. Sometime later, Ixioe gorged herself on all the little bread rolls. That night, Ken-Q was questioned by someone about the boy who was the dragon tamer. She explained that due to her recklessness, almost everyone died. It was lucky he was there and saved them. The blonde guy asked if she didn't tell anyone about the dragon. She said she didn't tell anyone because she promised him she wouldn't tell anyone except the Kim family. The guy's name was Kim Shanghai, and he said she did a good job. Since it's dangerous for people to know that information, she calls him dad and says he saved everyone. What is he thinking of doing? Is he not thinking of getting that dragon? Dad laughs, saying he's not that kind of person and she should worry about how she's going to thank him. She says she gave him 100,000, but she doesn't think it was enough, and her dad tells her to give him a purple card. Kin-Chu asks if her dad doesn't want to go since he's so curious about him. Dad says it would really be good to meet the dragon tamer, but he has something to do tomorrow morning. The princess of the Taiji kingdom is going to study in the city of Zhengai. Of course, there had to be a princess in a Chinese work. They just arrived in the city and were hungry. So they went to the aunt who has the biggest bread rolls in town. The aunt came to greet them and said they were closed today. The princess said it was strange. She thought it was around here. When the aunt asked who they were, she was thrown to the ground. Let's join forces and kill this guy who hit the aunt. The princess asked her if she knew someone named Lufin. The protagonist came down the stairs asking if they were looking for him, but he was shocked when he saw that scene. His aunt had been beaten, and the princess was saying it stank there. Lufin went to talk to his aunt asking if she was okay, and the princess said she came to see him. Lufin turned around and asked who they were. The guys introduced themselves as Princess Jinzu and the guy is Kwai Hante. She said she had an incredible opportunity for him. Lufin was curious about this opportunity. She said that being a dragon tamer must be difficult. He was shocked when they opened the briefcase with a dragon egg, and she said that if he accepted the terms, it would be his. She asked what he thought and said the conditions were simple. He would only have to be her absolute slave and never disobey any order. Thank God we don't have to worry about the FBI because he'll probably beat her. Confidently, she says that this is the reward she received and it's the only dragon egg in the world. She asks why he isn't responding. He must be impressed with this incredible dragon egg. However, our protagonist is a bit disappointed. Compared to Xiao's egg, this one is very weak. With a look of dissatisfaction, he says that indeed the attributes seem interesting. The princess thinks he's an idiot who doesn't know how important a dragon egg is to a dragon tamer, while Lufin tells his aunt not to worry as he'll handle them. Jinzu says that without the dragon egg, he'll be useless. He should be excited about this news. Lufin says it's really amazing, but he refuses, disappointing the girl. Jinzu says he's refusing the chance to become her slave and still make history as a dragon tamer. Funny that she spoke as if the first part were a great opportunity. Lufin says that if that's all she's there for, she can leave because he's not interested in being anyone's servant. Kwai Hante gets angry, saying he's being disrespectful to the princess, who came there. Lufin laughs, saying that being someone's slave is ridiculous. Suddenly, Jinzu points and says it's up to her knight to teach the kid a lesson. The aunt steps in front, telling them not to get angry and stop it. But the knight slaps her on the cheek. Good heavens, we're going to kill this guy. She falls to the ground with flushed cheeks, and Lufin goes to help her. Queen Hante says he deserves it for offending the princess and moves to punch the protagonist in the back of the neck. However, he suddenly summons the dragon blade and warns that if he hurts his family, he'll die there. The aunt tells Lufin to stop being reckless, and Jinzu tells the guy to attack him again and stop hesitating. Lufin calls for the princess and slaps her back. Man, equal rights now. Let's spread them around. Queen Hante tries to attack him from behind at this moment, but Lufin manages to defend and throws his blade on the ground. Suddenly, the guy gave up the fight and went to help the princess, who's lying there. And he took another slap. The only one who hasn't been beaten up so far is the protagonist. Jinzu yells at him, saying he's trash. Does she seem fine? He should kill the dragon tamer now. Xiaoe is sleeping peacefully in bed while his phone is ringing. Kin-Chu is calling, walking through the city, and guys, I didn't know she was so strong. A really promising mage. Suddenly, an explosion happens beside her. It's Hante being thrown and bleeding. Jinzu told everyone to get out of the way and stop staring. Hante apologized, saying the kid had too many attributes and he won't be able to handle it. She says it's okay then, this princess will help him. And she begins to cast a black magic spell. Lufin recognizes that magic as the opposite of Kin-Q's. All beautiful and curvy, she's approaching. The dark power surrounds Hante's body. Both of them are surprised and he turns into a level 30 horseman. Jinzu has the power of a spirit witch. Lufin realizes the guy has become a monster. Kin-Q steps in front of him saying she'll help. Hante jumps to crush them both, and the protagonist asks Qin Shu to take care of his aunt. He narrowly avoids the attack. Luffy knows he'll have to use his dragon abilities to deal with this now. Jinsu tells the knight to kill the kid, and that'll ease her anger. Hante is confident, but Shioe is coming to help, already beginning a dragon transformation, startling Jinsu, and in the middle of the city she turns into a black dragon. Luffy warns it's his turn now. Jinsu starts casting a spell to stop the dragon. However, Shioe roars and her ability is interrupted. Under her paw, Hante is already crushed. She tosses him aside, and Jinsu can't believe it. On the ground, he apologizes, saying it's impossible to win this. Luffy approaches and asks her if she was the one going to kill him. Desperate, she says he did something very wrong. She killed his knight, and he has no idea what will happen. He'll become the enemy of the Taiki Kingdom. Luffy asks if she's really trying to scare him, especially since she came here to hurt his family. Shioe starts to conjure a fireball, and he says he doesn't care if she's a princess. Even if she were a goddess, she would have to pay with interest. That's what happens to those who hit the aunt of the warm bread. However, from the sky, someone on a griffin shouts for him to stop. It's Kinku's father, and she tells him to be careful. Shioe looks in his direction with the fireball. Luffy tells her to stop and cuts Jinzu's staff, while the griffin is passing by Shioe, who's just giving a glance. The guy descends from the griffin and tells Luffy to hide the dragon since many people are watching. From the back, Kinku tells him to obey her father already, so Luffy orders Shioe to untransform, turning back into a little dragon. While Kinshu is calling the protagonist, her father goes to talk to the princess. Talking to his aunt, they hope her father can handle the situation. But Luffy already knows things won't be so easy. Shanghai says it's the first time he's seen the protagonist and he's already causing trouble. Our protagonist apologizes, saying it wasn't his intention. The aunt asks Shanghai if he managed to resolve the situation. Shanghai explains it will be complicated since her family not only has numerous businesses, but also holds a high position in this kingdom. Luffy says he doesn't care how powerful she is. He won't compromise his dignity because of a dragon egg. Shanghai says he's a good boy with integrity. He doesn't need to worry because they have a way to protect him. However, he can't do it alone, so he has a condition. Everyone seems curious, and Luffy asks what condition it is. Shanghai warns that he'll have to become the champion of the Southern Province in the Grand Exam, while Shanghai delays the princess as much as possible. Kim Shu says it's very difficult with all the best students from the entire Southern Province, but Shanghai warns once again that he'll only protect him if he achieves that title. Determined, Luffy says he accepts the condition. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Jinju is walking around desperately asking why that guy hasn't died yet, and says to pass the order to the family to kill him. The next day was the Grand Exam, and everyone there was talking about the items and abilities they had. But everyone was stunned when Luffy showed up. But nobody there knew he already had a dragon, so they found it ridiculous that he had the courage to come there just to try to get into a university. Luffy thought he was too lazy to deal with all this nonsense. Gandalf appeared and told everyone to be quiet, and warned that the exam for the Southern Province was about to begin. Luffy is waiting to transform all the scrolls he's receiving into one of better quality, when suddenly someone asks if he's really going to participate in the Grand Exam. When he turns around, it's that teacher from the beginning who gives him a teleportation stone. The teacher says he believes in his determination, but he warns him to be careful because it's a place where people can die. Luffy knows that the points you earn in this exam are determined by the difficulty of the portal you enter, and he's aiming for first place. Someone calls him, and when he looks, it's Kinshu bringing another curvy girl named Xiaomin, and she's extremely strong. Blushing, she asks Luffy if he wants to team up with the two of them, but her friend doesn't seem to like it much. However, he apologizes, saying he'll participate alone this time and wishes them good luck. Sad, Kinshu also wishes him good luck. While she thinks that with the strength he has, she would only be a hindrance. Her friend wants to know why she wanted to team up with the person who is the weakest here. Kim Chu says she doesn't know anything, and for sure this year he will be the strongest in the south. So Luffy stepped through a portal. All the students were gathered under a dark sky where the exam would begin. Gandalf appeared on the projector and said the places were divided into normal, difficult, terrifying, and nightmare, and they should use teleportation stones to enter. In the normal level, the creatures are just projections and you can't die. In the difficult level, the monsters are real and you can use a teleportation stone to escape. The terrifying level gives 3 times more points, but it's extremely common for people to die, so it's not recommended to go alone. A guy named Hongwu says the top one this year is his. Showman recognizes him as one of the best in this province, and indeed he has a chance to be in the top one. The other students feel discouraged having to compete against him. In the observation room, people seem to believe that Hongwu is indeed the most formidable student of the year. The bald guy says he's also keeping an eye on Miss Kim Hugh. She seems promising. Gandalf had high expectations for Luffy. It's a pity he awakened such a bad class. Kin Ku's father says he has a very promising person in mind, the dragon tamer Luffy. Gandalf is incredulous upon hearing this name, and the guy beside him says the boy hasn't even entered yet. He'll probably give up this year. Besides, Hamu already has 3,000 points and is in the top one of the ranking. Gandalf says apparently he's not giving up but waiting for the highest level portal. The sky turns red and they can't believe he's planning to enter the nightmare difficulty alone. Lufin is smiling while the guys reveal that no one has ever entered the nightmare and come out unscathed, but he's teleported to the skies. Gandalf is trembling, saying the last person who entered the nightmare was 8 years ago, and he had a miserable death. The bald guy says it's ridiculous. Apparently they didn't educate the boy properly, and you should know what happens to those who enter the nightmare. Confident, Shanghai says it's too early to draw conclusions, and they should just watch what happens. Gandalf is curious and asks Shanghai if he has so much confidence in the boy, while thinking it's impossible that he really achieved that. Lufin appears on the first floor of the nightmare difficulty. The fog is dense and he can't see anything, but he feels there are at least 10 creatures. Some humanoid black wolves at level 10 appear and attack him. Lufin seems confident, saying that everything is just beginning now. A slash of his blade cuts through all the creatures, and with that, he completes the first floor, earning 990 points. The old bald guy is incredulous that he really won with just one attack. Gandalf asks if he really found a legendary dragon. Lufin still has to climb quite a bit in the ranking. Suddenly, a guy with a red briefcase enters the room. The old ones can't take their eyes off Lufin's performance. The guy in the suit shouts to everyone and introduces himself as someone who came to investigate from the city of Langu. He wants to know where the dragon tamer known as Lufin is. His name is Qiangxiang and he's a level 57 swordsman. In the tower, several vines are cut and Lufin is progressing smoothly. One of the maps he had made was with the treasure there, and he finally located it. In the midst of all the plants, he manages to locate a book of accelerated growth skills. When used, his pet gains double experience. Lufin realizes that this will obviously be perfect for Xiaoe. After all, he had noticed that she had difficulty leveling up, so this will help a lot. Qiangxiang is looking at the screen, saying that Lufin is in their school. They'd better interrupt this test now and call him here. Gandalf says the test is something very important for all students, and as the director there, he can deal with whatever problem the boy has. Qiangxiang then asks if he will deal with the punishment he deserves. The old man is curious, and Qianhai asks him what he means by the punishment the dragon boy did. Qiangxiang tears off his arm, telling him not to come closer. However, he should know that if he tries to keep protecting this boy, the whole Jin family will go against him. He pushes him, telling him to get out of there, and tells the director to bring the boy now. Qianhai lights a cigarette and says that after Lufin's secrets are exposed, neither the Jin family nor the superiors will care. Qiangxiang asks what secret he's talking about and says he's going too far. But Qianhai grabs his arm and warns him that if he wants to go that far, he accepts this punishment, while revealing a deep dependence on cigarettes since he doesn't even drop the thing in the middle of the mess. Qiangxiang warns that he'll report his actions to the Longdu superiors. Gandalf asks him to calm down, and Qiangxiang wants to know why so many people are defending this kid. Qianhai says they just need to watch, and soon they'll find out why the Jin family will become insignificant. Qiangxiang is startled when he realizes that the boy chose the nightmare difficulty. In the challenge, Lufin says he wanted to see how far he could get without Xiaoe's help, because with her passive, he has twice the stats of someone at level 15. But maybe it's a good idea to bring her along because then she also gains experience. The old ones are discussing because he defeated the creatures with one attack, when suddenly they hear a roar and Lufin summons Xiaoe. They can't believe it, and she already prepares to attack with her claw. Qianhai says he's seen it once, but seeing it again is still terrifying. She strikes the wall, shattering everything. Qianhai says now everyone has seen the secret. He's the first dragon tamer in history to have a dragon. Gandalf is sweating, incredulous that he really managed to tame one. On the second floor, everything was burned, and he passed easily by cutting through. The guys say it's unbelievable. If this kid gets stronger alone, he'll be able to challenge an entire country. He's already on the 13th floor with 58,000 points. Easily, the duo is defeating everything and manages to complete another floor. Gandalf says it's not just the power of the dragon. The boy also seems to have incredible strength. He has at least over 100 points in each attribute. Qianhai asks Xiang if he really wants to challenge the boy, who responds, saying that now it's explained where he got so much confidence. And then he says to just send a video of Lufin's performance to that professor. Marcus Tu Jing. Lufin is already on the 20th floor of the nightmare. Some black knights seem to follow a busty monster as always, a level 15 creature called Black Sacrifice. Lufin grabs Xiaoe's chin and says she's about to level up, and activates the lava flame. The explosion is sent and the creatures are evaporated, with the 20th floor being completed. She goes up to level 11 and Lufin to level 16. With that, he already has 98,000 points. 1 hour later, during the fear challenge on the 50th floor, a muscular guy was exhausted, thinking that this year's challenge was really perverse. However, he was sure that the only person who had a chance to beat him was that girl, Kinkyu. Since she was in a team and would earn only half the points, he was confident that this year he would be the top one. He was already shouting to the heavens, asking if everyone outside was watching his incredible performance. Obviously, they weren't, my friend. They were watching our protagonist. They commented that he was also reaching level 50, and there they believed he wouldn't be able to go much faster. However, our boy was confident because Xiao Yi had received a shape-shifting ability. She got a baby dragon form, a girl form, a giant flaming dragon form, and an end-of-the-world form. Suddenly, they both felt the ground tremble as stone ogres emerged from it. They were 3 giant level 20 amethysts, and the elders were sure he wouldn't get past them. While the other elders wondered why they didn't have a guy as good as Lu Fan in their school, the golem roared and went to punch Lu Fan. However, he was smiling, thinking that things had gotten a bit tougher in the middle of the tower. Xiao Yi punched, stopping the golem's punch. He immediately ordered her to change to the end-of-the-world form. A red beam of light shot up, and the elders wondered what he was up to this time. Xiao Yi had risen towards the sky, and the transformation was happening. Her eyes started to resemble the one from Lord of the Rings. She advanced to the end-of-the-world form, and her strength went from 400 to 2,900. The elders didn't even know that dragons could change combat forms. They were all scared of our boy's strength. Once again, the golem came to punch, but he easily dodged. He was activating the pet inspiration that increased all his points by 10%. But to be honest, it seemed more like 30% from the numbers. He then ordered her to bite the golem's head, and it was a perfect hit. The elders were incredulous that it had been damaged so easily. Professor Gandalf was sure that to do something like that, it must have had more than 2,000 points of strength. Another golem tried to grab Lu Fan in mid-air, but our Matrix boy easily dodged. At the same moment, he pulled out a transformed dragon claw and threw an explosion at the golem's head. The old man started poking the fool, saying he was lucky not to have provoked Lu Fan, who was about to be hit for the 3rd time. But this time, he didn't dodge. It was Xiao Yi who roared and weakened the golem. The rascal was confident, saying he would deliver the final blow. However, I think his was stolen because she smashed the ground and destroyed the last golem. Seeing that both leveled up, he realized that the nightmare difficulty was the right choice. Not to mention, there were still many floors for them to level up. The old men, who were just poking each other, said that it seemed even the 50th floor wasn't difficult for Lu Fan. The brown-haired guy was a specialist in judging strength, and Gandalf asked what he thought of the dragon. The guy said it was hard to estimate, but it seemed that in the form change, she must have at least 2,500 strength. The muscular old man said it was impossible. How could a kid that age be stronger than all of them there? While Gandalf was thinking that he had already expected something like this, the elders warned that from the 50th floor on, the X+1 function activates. Gandalf said this was established by those who first created the tower. Basically, after the 50th floor, you always encounter a boss on each floor. This makes advancing any floor beyond that extremely dangerous. And obviously for Lu Fan, who will only face bosses on nightmare level, is even more difficult. The guy smoking a cigarette said to stop talking and better watch Lu Fan, who at that moment was finishing off another boss. With that, he and Xiao Yi leveled up again. However, he was starting to realize that each floor was getting much more difficult. But with Xiao Yi in the World Destroyer mode, he didn't need any strategy. The elders were commenting that it was unbelievable that he was already on the 70th floor, while another one imagined it was possible to pass the 80th. But now seeing how he was doing it, the truth was that it was quite simple. He set fire to the fleeing creatures. A big-mouthed worm came, and he used the blood transformation. Xiao Yi grabbed it, and it was over. He leveled up to 19, and the 83rd floor was completed. In the room, they were discussing if he could overcome the great final challenge. The great geniuses of generations always managed to get there, but all lost in this last challenge. However, Gandalf was confident, saying that Lu Fan was different. He would be the first in the last decade to conquer all 100 floors. Some still doubted until one of them announced that he had reached the 99th. Walking through the dungeon, he found himself in front of a throne. Around the throne were 4 headless knights. Suddenly, the candles in the place lit up, and a headless knight with a blue flame arose. It was a level 55 boss that brought the end of the world. Lu Fan had heard about the kingdom of the Headless Knights, and it was an extremely difficult mission. Interrupting his thoughts, the knight advanced, activating a curse on Lu Fan that he would die automatically if his health dropped below 75%. He found himself in a difficult situation, but since there was no control skill, all he could do was charge forward and deal with the 4 at once. The Headless Knight unleashed the Pantheon skill from League of Legends. But our boy easily dodged and approached the first one, delivering a slash right in the middle of the armor. However, he realized that it seemed indestructible, and another one appeared behind to counterattack. Lu Fan barely defended himself and shouted for Xiao Yi, signaling that the time had come. She appeared, smashing the knight and destroying the entire castle. They looked from above and apparently had dealt with the first of the 4. Another one advanced, saying that for killing the king, he should die. He used a lightning attack, but Lu Fan defended himself. However, there was one coming from the front and another from behind. He managed to escape the 3 attacks by jumping up while thinking that he needed to reach the 100th floor quickly. In front of the fireball, he told Xiao Yi to finish it, a ridiculously overpowered attack because it caused damage and also restored her health. The poor knights tried to resist but soon began to be vaporized, and the 99th level was cleared. Once again, they leveled up, and now the elder was eager to see what would happen on the last floor. The smoker said that today would go down in history. Gandalf, on the other hand, was beginning to get apprehensive. The 100th level on Nightmare difficulty was theoretically impossible. He approached the throne and raised the sword when suddenly a strange red aura began to envelop the place. His weapon disintegrated, and he quickly realized that it was the last floor. In a split second, he found himself once again in front of the throne, now surrounded by the undead and with the king sitting on it. The monster was the level 60 Emperor and World Annihilator. Seeing that they would have to face multiple creatures, Lufin decided to test the destruction mode. And the rascal was still smiling confidently. He pointed to the king and told her to switch to the destruction form. The dragon roared and her body was covered in flames. With that, her physical strength had dropped, but her spiritual strength had increased to over 7,000. The old men who had been impressed for 30 minutes were once again in disbelief that she had another form of evolution. The headless knights pointed their swords and told the undead legion of 500 to advance on Lufin. But he told Xiao Yi to use her new ability. While he fought the undead, the activation was being prepared until he turned and told her to activate the cataclysm. The undead were now just dead. The kill count was rising by over 100 per second, while the old men watched our boy running towards the king. The headless knights leaped at him to try to stop him, but he suddenly started breakdancing to dodge. He called Xiao Yi, and now only 37 undead were left, once again activating the cataclysm, and the old men were once again in disbelief. While the top two had 75,000 points, Lufin was already nearing 1 million. They knew very well that the reward for scoring that many points would be no small thing. Lufin called out to the boss, who said he was an ignoramus. Now the army had only the boss alive. Lufin told Xiao Yi to be prepared. The monster swung a sword, and Lufin used his dragon claws to defend, activating an ability that made her flap her wings and create 2 fire cyclones. The boss retreated, realizing there was something strange about his strength. This was because Lufin was using the Ring of Lament, and now the more the boss got hit, the more negative statuses were applied. The monster called Lufin despicable, but he just called for his dragon and charged forward. The poor boss was now surrounded by about 20 fire tornadoes. The king retreated to near the throne, but Lufin appeared instantly from within the flames, landing a hit squarely in the chest and pinning him to the throne. With that, she leveled up to 17 and our boy to 22, and the monster counter had reached 0. Now the elders just wanted to know what this kid was going to receive, while the rascal only wanted to go home to eat his aunt's cooking. Delicious. He was congratulated for completing the 100th floor, and the first item he received was an Ice Dragon King's Fury skill book, a ring blessed with a wind spirit, and a cloak that granted resistance to fire and ice elements. Now it was just a matter of going home. Exiting through the portal, he was eager to see what the results would be, until the elders came up to him, saying he was the pride of the school. While the elders scolded each other for doubting him, our boy was confused. Kin's father came immediately, saying that even knowing how strong he was still surprised. Lufin only mentioned that he had met the conditions he had asked for, meaning he shouldn't have any more problems with the princess of the Taiki kingdom. Shanhai replied that he could rest assured that it was resolved, and the man in the white hat overheard the conversation and left immediately. There, they were talking about how no one had broken the record for over 30 years. Meanwhile, in the Dragon Kingdom on the northern border in the level 60 region, a man was watching our boy's performance while drinking a bottle of wine. He looked like Reinhardt from Overwatch, but he was actually Marquis Tu Jing. Someone knocked on the door and brought some books, saying his deduction was correct. An official from Dragon City named Huan Shanfeng was negotiating with that Princess Jinsu. The old man was angry, and the white-haired boy said it seemed they had been receiving various privileges from the Jin family. Reinhardt said that now it was clear why they wanted to imprison Lufin. He got up angrily, saying they would have to deal with this Huan Shanfeng. He gave the order immediately to strip Shanfeng of all his rights and positions, and he was never to set foot in Dragon City again. Obviously, if he had any issues with it, he could just come and talk to him. With that, he turned and also said to keep an eye on this boy Lufin and ensure he received good resources. Looking out the window, he thought that once his mission there was over, it would be great to meet the future legend. But staring at a red globe of light, he wondered if this would ever end. Meanwhile, in her room, Princess Jinsu had just discovered that Huan Shanfeng had lost all his positions. However, the person on the phone informed her that they had found another dragon tamer in the city of Qinzhou. She got excited, saying she hoped it was someone who understood the situation she was in. Hong Wu, the muscular guy, was now finishing his test with 89,000 points. The poor guy was exhausted, thinking he barely made it out alive. However, he was confident, having passed 72 levels, so he was sure he was top one. He saw the elders with their backs turned and wondered what was going on there, already imagining that as soon as they saw him, they would all be praising him emotionally. Full of confidence, he called for the director, who asked if he had finished. He said yes, scored 89,000, and was sure he was top one. The director just put his hand on his shoulder and said it was okay. He would still get into one of the top 10. Hong Wu was confused about why the director was speaking with such a pitying tone. At that moment, he concluded that this was a lesson to stay humble and not let being top one go to his head. 7 days later, it was the date for the announcement of the exam results. Everyone wanted to talk to our boy and his aunt. Shanghai appeared, and she replied that it was better to talk inside. The official announcement showed that Lufin was in first place, but the number of points was confidential. Shanghai then announced that the government had also sent some special rewards: a book of the Blue Dragon's Roar that granted a thunder ability, a bottle of lightning potion that increased damage by 20%, green wind armor that reduced damage received by 30%, and boots with arrow wings that provided a teleport ability with a 30-second cooldown. Lufin was happy. Having an ability exclusive to mages just in the boots was already incredible. Ken Chu entered the house saying that the 10 directors of each of the top universities were calling them for an interview. Lufin was impressed since the announcement had just been made. Shanghai told him to get used to this treatment, but then whispered that his results were being kept confidential to avoid attacks from other nations, as was the case with the princess. Lufin thanked him and said he wanted to meet the person who did this for him in person. The man replied that there was no need to rush because he would soon meet them. Kyun Shu then handed him a card saying it was a gift of thanks. Seeing it was a purple card, he knew it was worth 10 million coins, though they had agreed on only 100,000. Shanghai asked him to accept it as a thank you for saving Kin Ku's team. She then shouted for them to go to the village. Lufin was confused, but she pulled him, saying he had to meet all the representatives. Meanwhile, in a nearby forest, Jinzu was asking Hong Tai what level the guy was at. He replied that he was at level 19 and the dragon at level 14. Smiling, she said that tamers were really different. The dragon she once wanted to give to Lufin was now in the hands of another guy. The white-haired guy was named Chen Tianzi, and the boss in front of him advanced. He jumped and sent his dragon to advance. A tail strike made the creature fall, and he went to lance its chest. With that, the dragon leveled up to 15 and he to level 20. The princess praised his talent, and he responded, saying he hoped not to disappoint her. She informed Hong Tai that the dragon's lance would be given to the guide, who said it was fine. Chanzi thanked the princess, saying that with the dragon, the lance, and her buffs, he would defeat the guy who ranked top one. Chanzing had scored 210,000 points, and she estimated that Lufin had around 300,000. So with all these new items, he would surely win. Remembering the humiliation she endured, she ordered Chanzi to kill the protagonist and steal a black dragon. She pointed at him, saying he would become the strongest tamer in history. Chanzi replied for her not to worry, it would be an honor to serve as her knight forever. Our boy was now arriving at Kin Ku's house to be welcomed by the people. She asked which academy he would attend, explaining awkwardly that she didn't want to be too far away. Her father had told her to go to the same one he did. Lufin said he trusted in teamwork, so it would be good if they stayed together, and whenever he went hunting, she would be a priority. However, he mentioned he hadn't chosen an academy yet, but would let her know as soon as he decided. Embarrassed, she shouted that she would try to enter the same one as him, and he smiled back, saying that was a good plan. As he entered the room, he was stared at by a priest and 3 healthy-looking girls. He introduced himself, greeting everyone, and the priest came over, saying he had watched the video and was impressed. Facing the people, the priest said he would receive 10 million dragon coins and access to any kingdom. The gray-haired girl said it was shameful for him to come all the way there with such a horrible offer, saying that with her, he would receive 20 million and access to a secret kingdom that the public couldn't enter called the Snow Kingdom. Everyone started arguing, each one touting their offer. Then an alternative-looking girl told our boy that if he entered her academy, he would have the right to compete in the national exam. The other said it made no sense, as he was just entering college, so how could he compete at the national level? But that piqued his curiosity. She explained that the national exam involved 23 countries worldwide, each allowed to send 1 representative under the age of 25 to compete. Of course, the rewards were extremely rare treasures. The priest and the gray-haired girl kept saying it was too much for someone just entering college, but our friend with the piercing insisted that from what she saw in the exam, he had the potential for it. Lufin knew that this wasn't just a competition with great prizes, but also a chance to elevate himself to the rank of the strongest. At that moment, the system updated, indicating that he had received a treasure map. He was thoughtful because the first one had led him to the Black Dragon Egg. The map showed it was at the Dragon Capital Academy in a safe region. Gohan was about to increase her offer, but Lufin immediately said he had decided. He would go to the Dragon Capital Academy. 4 days later, he was closing his aunt's shop. She said she never imagined she would leave there and was a bit reluctant about not having to work anymore. But our boy told her he would take care of her. He was assembling the perfect team, and 2 girls in the car were already calling him Two. Of course, all of them applied to the same academy as him. Kin Chu said she hadn't applied there, but her friend revealed the secret. Lufin cared so much for his aunt that he even contacted Gohan to get her into the academy. It's the first time I've seen someone bring their aunt to the academy, considering how delicious her food is. I'd say he's smart. He'll always have good things to eat. Look how she thanks him, clinging to the boy and crying with joy. Everyone gets in the car, and before getting on the plane, our boy thinks about how he promised to give his aunt a better life, and he will. This is just the beginning. Sometime later, they are impressed by the dragon capital city until someone calls for the princess and Lufin turns to see who it is, coming face to face with Jinju and her two lackeys. Hong Tai looks confused and Lufin wants to know what they are doing there. Qianzi immediately wants to charge at our boy. Even the princess tells him to calm down because it's not time yet. The girls are all worried, wondering what the princess is doing there. At that moment, Gohan appears, saying both groups arrived together and tells them to come on. She says it's a coincidence that the two dragon tamers are the first and second in the ranking. Lufin is shocked, not expecting someone with the same profession as him. Qianzi says he's been hearing a lot about him. Lufin turns to Gohan and says they can go see the school now. The princess responds that they prefer to explore the place alone. She then shows that the first-year students area has more than 30 villages, with the best ones obviously reserved for the highest-ranking ones. Lufin's village will be there, while Tianzi's will be at number 18. Our boy quickly realizes that Tianzi probably accepted the terms the princess offered him and thinks it's shameful for someone in the same profession to stoop so low. The girls then say they didn't make the top 30 and ask if they'll have to look at the dorms. Gohan replies that they will, but the aunt gives a soft squeeze and asks if they can't live with Lufin. Gohan says there's no rule against it as long as the person who owns the residence doesn't mind. The aunt asks if he isn't tired of eating her warm meals. Our boy responds that he isn't tired. He enjoys eating everything his aunt makes. She pulls the other two and says they'll be a perfect team and all live together. Seeing he has no choice, he invites them, saying it would be better for them to be close anyway. Qin Chu, from a forbidden angle, says it's okay, and her friend says that the houses will indeed be much better than the dorms. While the aunt talks to Qin Q, her friend comes up to our boy and says they'll only be living together. But don't get any ideas, she said as they stood in front of house number 2. The sister notified him that the treasure map was nearby. He turned to Gohan and asked who lived there. She says she only handled people from the southern region, so she didn't know very well. The only information was that it was a very dangerous goth girl. Man, Lufin is unstoppable. He immediately sent his aunt and friends to his house because he wanted to meet the neighbor. His aunt smiled and told him to take a gift to the new neighbor, but he replied that he was just going to meet her. His aunt thought Lufin had changed a lot. As soon as he heard it was a girl, he ran to meet her. Qin Ku's friend was impressed. The boy had 3 girls at home and still ran to meet the neighbor. He rang the doorbell, carrying a cake his aunt had made for her. When the girl opened the door, he introduced himself as Lufin, the number 1 from Yangai City. It was obvious she was extremely dangerous and carried high-density weapons. My warrior was ready for extracurricular activities. She said nothing, and he said he brought a gift because they were neighbors and he wanted them to get to know each other better. Silent as she was, she just took the box without saying anything and then just mentioned the province and that her name was Jiangying. The woman said 2 words and he was already thinking her voice was very cute. I didn't know our boy was so bold. He already asked to come in and asked if she could offer him a glass of water. She said nothing and just nodded. As soon as she moved to the side, he rushed in. He knew he couldn't stay long, so he had to find the treasure as quickly as possible. He checked the bedroom, the bathroom, until he opened a door and found the treasure map with the jade dragon egg. Finally, he read his second dragon. He immediately ran out and met her in the hallway with 2 glasses of water. After obtaining the egg, he thanked her for her kindness and left. She looked to the side and saw that he had come out of the room where she had left a dress, already thinking he was a pervert in her house. That night in village number 1, Xiao Yi was observing the jade egg. He activated the incubation ability, and the egg began to crack. They both were anxious, and a small jade dragon with 2 little horns emerged from it. It seemed to be a support-type dragon, as it had various abilities to heal and apply buffs. Lufin seemed intrigued by the fact that it was a support dragon. The most impressive part was that it had a Jade Dragon lineage ability that doubled the abilities and extra points someone received for having a connection or being a dragon, in addition to 5,000% life recovery. This would not only double his strength, but probably also Xiao Yi's since she was connected to him. Doing the math, he got excited, realizing that Xiao Yi would reach almost 12,000 spirit points. She was happily playing with the dragon. Additionally, she had an equipment assimilation ability that allowed her to absorb any item. Lufin had no idea how strong she would become or in what form. While he was thinking of a name, the dragon bit Xiao Yi. In a stroke for creativity, he named it Xiao Fei. He picked it up and gently stroked its wing. The next day, walking around the campus, they discussed how his aunt, being in the life profession class, didn't need to attend the ceremony. The girls asked why it was so noisy in his room the previous night. When he was about to explain, someone called out to them. They were actually calling for the 2 girls who felt embarrassed when the guys said they would enter any dungeon with them, that it would be great to die alongside such beauties. They assumed the boy next to them wasn't their boyfriend. This scene seemed just for the artist to draw the girls as the scene shifted to the moment they entered the ceremony hall. Xiaomin and Qin Ku's friend had to sit in the back because they didn't have special professions. Meanwhile, the muscular guy who came in second was staring at Lufin. He remembered him as the martial artist from the entrance exam, seething while our boy smiled. He remembered very well the shame he had felt because of the damn protagonist. While Xiaomin invited Qin Chu for being able to sit next to Lufan, it revealed her feelings towards him. Something caught our boy's attention. It was the incredibly powerful goth girl in the chair staring right at him. Qin Chu asked who she was, and he said she was the neighbor from number 2. She was impressed, noting that the girl was both very strong and very beautiful. The guys in the back were getting increasingly angry with Lufan, the bastard surrounded by beauties. Then the director ordered everyone to shut up. His name was Zhao Sheming, and he was also the Combat Academy's professor. He said he didn't like idle chatter, so he just informed them they would receive some cards. These would function as credentials and shopping cards within the academy. Points, which were basically the currency there, would be stored on these cards. Points could be used to access secret realms, buy weapons, and even potions. The initial amount present on the card represented their ranking position. One of them complained that in easier provinces, weaker people topped the rankings, but the director assured them that everything had been taken into account for the calculation of the amounts. Lufan understood these were the Academy's funds. The director explained that in a month, everything would be recalculated. He also mentioned that the top 30 in that place had access to the blue class, where they would receive various privileges including secret abilities and realms that only they could enter. People realized that staying in the top 30 was very important, as it not only got them their own village but also entry into the blue class. The director then warned that being in the blue class also had its disadvantages. Any student could challenge someone from the blue class to steal their place in that position. If the blue class person lost, they were obliged to give up everything they had. Additionally, no blue class member could refuse challenges. He announced that for this first month, the top 30 from the exam would be the blue class, and the first and most important place belonged to the dragon tamer from the southern province, Lufan. People were commenting again about that bastard surrounded by women and still being top 1. Others noted that his test videos were completely private. At that moment, Tianzi said that if the princess asked, he would finish off Lufan. She replied that it was fine, there was no need to rush. Meanwhile, Qin Chu expressed her insecurity, noting that what the director did would make everyone hunt him down. After the ceremony ended, they were leaving the auditorium and our boy was eager to activate his new dragon. He mentioned that they should enter a secret realm when someone called out to him. It was Hong Wu who obviously wanted a challenge. Everyone was apprehensive since the announcement had just been made. Lufan asked if he was sure, and Hong Yu told him to stop stalling, noting that the director had said those in the top 30 couldn't refuse any challenges. Hong Yu thought our boy had passed by summoning various weak dragons. If that were the case, you could just take him out before the summons and win. With no choice, Lufan accepted, and Hong Yu placed 200 points on the bet. Considering that being top 1 with 1.2 million and having received 13,200 points were significant for the guy. From the corner, the princess and her group were eager to see how Lufan would perform. Hong Yu started the count from 1 to 3 while Xiaomin seemed insecure. Qin Chu told her to relax because she hadn't yet seen Lufan in action. The professors were also curious. As the count reached 1, Qin Chu said now she would understand who Lufan was. Hong Yu leaped towards him, activating a punch with accumulated Kai. Strangely, our boy vanished into thin air. The guy realized it was a teleportation ability from second-class mages, but the boy was a dragon tamer. Lufan appeared behind him and told him to come on, asking if that was all he could do. Hong Yu concentrated energy into both hands, saying that he was asking to die, and launched a series of palm attacks. But our boy advanced, dodging easily. The fool was confident, thinking that as long as the boy didn't summon a dragon, he would win. Suddenly, Lufan was about to kick him in the chest. He activated his shield, sure that someone with less than 280 points of strength couldn't break it. Of course, the shield was broken in the middle. The poor guy spat tomato sauce as he was thrown to the ground. Even Lufan was disappointed, wondering how someone could lose so easily. The crowd was asking where the dragon tamer's dragon was. Our boy approached, saying he didn't even try hard and that losing like that was ridiculous. The princess asked Tianzi what he thought his chances of winning were. He said that from what he saw, he had a 30% chance. But with the princess's buffs, he had 70%. She seemed excited, saying that was a good probability. Lufan then swiped the guy's card, taking the 200 points. Han Yu noticed he had 13,000 points. The professor had shown the calculation of how the points were determined. Doing a quick calculation, he realized Lufan must have scored at least 1.3 million in the exam. He knew Tianzi, the top 2, had scored 210,000. Watching our boy walk away, he thought it was the most embarrassing moment of his life to think he could beat him. In the entrance hall of the secret realms, his aunt appeared, worried, asking Lufan if he was okay. Our boy said yes, while Xiaomin was commenting that she hadn't imagined the boy was so strong. If his kick caused that much damage, she didn't want to imagine when he summoned a dragon. Lufan then called everyone over, presenting where they were going to enter. It was a dungeon known as the Forest of Poisonous Spiders, one of the best places to gain experience. His aunt mentioned that she was there but didn't know how to fight, so it would be very dangerous for her to go along. Of course, our boy said not to worry, that he would take care of his aunt. He then mentioned that the only problem was they needed one more person to make 5. Qin Chu suggested they take a look around. The number 2 girl and neighbor were right there. She was definitely the best option to join them. Lufan approached her awkwardly, calling for Jiang Ying. Seeing the look of disdain on her face, he was sure she didn't like the home invasion. Awkwardly, he mentioned that he noticed she was checking out the available dungeons. Would she like to join their team? Seeing the rascal with 3 girls beside him, she called him a pervert. His aunt and friends asked what he had been doing to make the girl think that on the second day. He fumbled, unable to explain. He turned to Zhang Ying and admitted that their first meeting was strange, but he wanted her to join them in the dungeon. Seeing it was the forest of poisonous spiders, a good option, she agreed. He smiled and everyone seemed excited because now the team was finally complete. When he went to pay the entry points, she said it wasn't necessary. She swiped her card, showing 8,744 points. Holy smokes, that meant she must have scored at least 800,000. This dense girl could almost be the protagonist of the story. Soon, the 4 of them appeared inside the spider realm. And do you remember that the last chapter ended right when Lu Fan and his friends were entering the dungeon? The inflated goth went ahead, and the girls in the back were asking why he chose such a difficult place. Our glutton answers that he chose this one because it's the dungeon with the most experience. It's the highest level. Then the aunt shows up, offering tasty stuff as always, which were some cookies that increased their experience gained by 20%. She even boasts to everyone, saying that only the secret class she got can cook that kind of thing. She then calls out to the inflated goth and asks if she wants to eat a little bit. The goth turns around and asks if that cake from last time was made by her. She asks if she's talking about the one our boy delivered and says yes. While Jianming watches, the other girls start praising the aunt's cooking. She lets out a small smile and our boy immediately notices something moving in the bushes. He tells them to be careful. They've been found. At that moment, a level 40 black-scaled python rises in front of them. Man of Xiaoman throws herself at it, calling out to Shizen. She strikes the creature's mouth, but it doesn't seem to deal any damage. Qin Shu comments that these level 40 creatures won't be easy to defeat. The aunt was even thinking about cooking some food to give them strength, but our boy says it's not necessary. They should focus on the fight while he handles these problems. So they understood, boy, the problem is the fight, but what are you going to do? Jian Ying already knew what the boy was up to. They thought a crazy dragon was coming, but our boy summons the latest novelty. Xiaoman asks if that's a dragon, and our boy tells Xiao Fei not to sit on his head and be so unruly. The girls all realize that apparently our boy had 2 dragons. At that moment, the python attacks Xiaoman, and our boy tells Xiao Fei to use the emerald light. But my goodness, how many Xiaos are in this story? A shield is summoned and defends Xiaoman. She falls to the ground like a fool and Qin Q rushes to help. She gets up, legs splayed, saying that apparently she didn't take any damage. The emerald light increases defense by 30% and withstands 3 attacks. Our boy tells everyone to relax as long as Xiao Fei was there, they wouldn't get hurt. Seeing this effect, Qin Q gets alarmed, saying this was better than a second-rank priest. And Xiaoman is impressed that her defense went up so much with just 1 skill. At that moment, the python lunges at the 2 of them. Our boy approaches and warns them to be careful. He would handle it. However, suddenly, a red laser shoots past him. Man, the attack hits the python in the mouth and goes right through it. It was Jian Ying. Didn't I say this damn girl has potential to be the protagonist? And man, from this angle, she really does have a lot of potential. Not only is she level 21, but she also has a Swordmaster class and uses an overpowered sword. Lu Fan already realized that if it weren't for the system, he'd be getting stomped by her. The question is, would that be so bad? Enough of that, because our boy tells the aunt to duck. There was a spider right behind her, and she was totally distracted. Jian Ying's attack deflects the spider's attack, and our boy saves her just in time. The problem was that these were silver spiders with extremely high defense. Besides being level 45, they were immune to armor-breaking effects. At that moment, Jian Ying charges in on her own. The spider activates a quick claw attack ability, but Jian Ying continues dodging easily. Our boy steps in and tells her to be careful. He defends the spider's attack, but to be honest, the girl was handling it just fine. She even gives our boy a scolding, telling him not to let his guard down. That's because there was an entire nest of spiders ahead of them. He then summons an army-destroying sword and says there weren't just silver spiders there. In that place, there were also black web spiders. This spider could kill any creature after trapping it in its web for 60 seconds. Rushing toward the creature, our boy tells Jian Ying that she has multiple class weapons, which is impressive. She says that the Swordmaster class can forge its own blades, and they've been with her since level 1. And now, from this dangerous angle, she says it's not the time for talking. Our boy quickly realized that while this class improves dragons, hers seemed to enhance various swords. In a way, they were similar. But at that moment, a spider creeps up behind Jian Ying. Our boy defends her and calls for the dragon's emerald light. Then Jian Ying prepares the army destroyer and strikes the spider on its backside. She manages to kill it and thanks him, saying that the 30% attribute increase was very helpful. While our boy can't stop being impressed with Jian Ying, commenting that her class is very versatile, they suddenly hear a scream. While he's having fun with the goth girl, the aunt and the others are in trouble. He runs, saying he's going to help them while telling Jian Ying to hunt down the black web spider. She stands there, moved for a second. With that, the girls were all using a bunch of skills. The dragon, Lu Fan slicing left and right, while Jian Ying was just watching. At that moment, suddenly, an attack comes from behind. Luckily, she blocks one with her sword, and the other three are stopped by her skill. She starts running, but Lu Fan tells her not to stray too far with that injury. The other girls then tell him to go help Jian Ying since they were managing with the buffs. Our boy runs off and says he's leaving things to the aunt. After walking through the forest and passing under a web, he finds Jian Ying face to face with a black spider. However, unfortunately, our goth protagonist is all beaten up. Lu Fan keeps moving forward and tells Xiao Fi to use another emerald light. She turns and says she can handle it herself. But at that moment, the spider activates its ability that kills the target after 60 seconds. Lu Fan rushes past her and tells her to stop being distracted and follow the opportunity he was creating. With that, he activates a claw transformation skill that depended on the Emerald Dragon's power. He prepares the attack and sends a slash at the spider. The creature is cut in half, and Jian Ying is impressed that he took it down with just one attack. Even though he was ranked above her, his attack was as strong as her mountain destroyer. Lu Fan tells them to keep advancing together and uses the ring's speed buff. She sets her swords to circle around him while our boy moves forward. And now our goth girl wonders why, even seeing someone so strong ahead of her, all she could feel was peace. Lu Fan is all happy that Xiao Fei had leveled up to level 3. Meanwhile, depression has hit Jian Ying, who feels down for having been helped. Just then, the rest of the group calls out to them, saying they've handled the silver spiders. Lu Fan turns to Jian Ying and says she's strong, but regardless, they wouldn't let their allies fight alone. Once again, she's healed and left speechless, hot boy. At that moment, the girls all approach and ask if his little dragon can heal. He says yes and activates the life fountain skill, which creates a regeneration area around everyone. Jian Ying is left thinking that the team she found wasn't so bad after all. Some time passes and they're confused, trying to find the exit. It seemed like the end, but they hadn't found anything, and they ask what Lu Fan was seeing. When Qin Xiu approaches, she gets startled. In front of them was a crater full of spiders. That was the lair of this place's secret boss. Looking down, he knows about its mass absorption and madness abilities. The boss could use other creatures to recover its own life, not to mention it could boost all their stats. They would first have to deal with all the spiders. The girls tell the aunt, who's just starting to go into dungeons, to look at the scene or she might get sick. She says she's strong and decides to take a look. A second later, she's vomiting against a tree, saying it's too disgusting. Jian Ying says that no matter what they decide to do, they'll first have to deal with the smaller ones. And Xiaomin mentions that other teams use a strategy of luring the small ones while others handle the boss. The problem is that this would take about 4 days, and the aunt says she didn't bring that much food. Obviously, Lu Fan raises his hand and says they don't need to follow other teams' strategies. The girls ask if he had an idea and what he was thinking of doing. At that moment, our boy just yells and calls for Xiaowei, telling her to assume the destroyer form. Xiaomin and Jian Ying are startled by the creature's presence, and the spider boss starts screeching up. That's when our boy tells Xiaowei to leave all the small ones to her. With that, she jumps toward the hole, and right then, he activates the cataclysm. Everyone is startled, and Jian Ying comments that it has as much power as a legendary dragon. Our boy then tells Xiao Fi to put his buffs on Xiaowei. Now he's really overpowered, using one dragon to strengthen the other. Man, the buff increases the stats a lot. The strength basically doubled. The spider boss starts screeching and sends a bunch of minions at everyone. Our boy asks Xiaomin and Qin Xiu to form a line and not let them escape, while he and Jian Ying would go after the spider boss. The creatures swarm, and the two dive into the madness. With that, the fight begins. The two fall under the nest, and our boy calls for Xiaowei, telling her to clean their side. She launches a cataclysm attack while the two of them run toward the boss. Jian Ying is scared of getting caught in the fire and being burned to death. Meanwhile, our boy looks up and asks if Qin Qiu and the others are doing well. They're using spells to stop the rest of the spiders from escaping, and our boy says that now it's just him and Jian Ying to deal with the rest. The spider boss faces them and sends a venomous attack that they narrowly dodge. With that, he activates Xiao Fi's buff to protect Jian Ying. Man, in this spider boss's web, anyone caught dies in 6 seconds. Our boy slashes, but a touch of the web leaves a cut on his face. He then tells Xiaowei that the time had come. Xiao Fei seems to activate another buff and smiles. With that, he tells her to activate the ability to burn the whole place. She flaps her wings, creating a blaze around the entire cave. Jian Ying is scared, wondering if that wasn't enough power to destroy a nation. With that, the creatures are flying up burning. Meanwhile, our boy cleared the webs and calmly walks toward the boss. The Jade Dragon leveled up to level 5 and even received a new ability. And now comes the moment everyone was waiting for. The evolution of the little green healing dragon 2. The little dragon girl, right guys? There's always got to be one. But to forgive the Chinese, the art turned out pretty cool, so it's all good. The green light begins to shine from the heart, so to speak. And at that moment, a paw swings down toward Jian Ying's head. She barely dodges and now receives the Emerald Blessing, which also gives her 3 attack buffs. She commands her swords to strike, hitting the boss head-on. Her attack, which previously couldn't deal damage, now went straight through the monster. The buff not only amplified her attack, but also used the creature's own attributes. Our boy is just petting Xiaofei, congratulating her on the evolution. He noticed how much stronger our goth girl's attack had become. And then he tells Xiaofei to apply the buff once more on Xiaoyi. She flies off, sits on Xiaoyi's head, and activates it again. With that, she apparently drops 3 crystals on her head. Xiaoyi activates the ability to burn everything again, creating another explosion. And Jian Ying knows that based on the number of attributes, that blow had over 10,000 attack points. The boss starts writhing in agony, and our boy calls out to both of them, saying it's time for the final blow. The artist isn't stupid. In this angle, there's no protagonist, right guys? That's because he's already up above, blade in hand. And from there, the man strikes the boss's head, activating the blood pact with the dragons. Xiaofei applies another buff on our goth girl, who sends a barrage of swords to assist our boy. With that, everyone levels up and the 2 dragons revert to their forms. Nisha Jianying asks our boy how many points he made, and he says about 1.3 million. She comments that with that power, it should have been much more. And he explains that it's actually because that's the limit for nightmare difficulty. Nisha Xiaofei runs to hug him, and Xiaoyi is already getting angry. Meanwhile, our boy calls the other girls, and they show up. With that, poor Junying is left despondent, realizing that while she wasn't far behind in points in terms of power, it was a gap that couldn't be closed. With that, the mission was finally over, and they began opening the chests. And after all that had happened, Jian Ying agreed to join the team. Even the girls wanted the goth girl's number, but she said she didn't use a phone. To celebrate the new permanent team, the aunt prepares a dinner for everyone. In the following days, he kept hunting in the dungeon with the group so that everyone could level up. During the day, they had lessons on combat theory. But half a month passed, and there were only 2 days left until the freshman evaluation. Xiaofei was already at level 14 and Shou Yan at 19. The rest of the group was at level 22, and even the aunt was at level 18. Jian Ying was also getting stronger. She had evolved the ice sword and reached level 24. And wow, Xiaoman had equipped the venomous spider set and leveled up. This warrior was really getting stronger. But one day passed, and the aunt said she was going to prepare some food for everyone. However, as soon as our boy stepped out of the portal, someone called for him. There was another goth girl with purple hair who said that President Zhao had something important to tell him. Our boy wanted to know what he wanted to talk about, especially right before the freshman evaluation. He asks if she knows what's so important. She just responds that he'll find out when he gets there. The group is talking about rank changes, and the woman asks if our boy is worried about that. He explains that lately, he hasn't had time for anything since he leaves the dungeon, goes straight to class, and then to bed. She then explains that everyone is now starting to duel for points because of what happened on the first day with him. Besides that, Hong, who got beaten up by him, has become the new standard. When someone is weak, they say they're worth 1 Hong. When someone is strong, they say they're worth at least 100 Hong. In the president's office, she tells him to go in as they've been waiting for him. As soon as our boy opens the door, the guy tells him to come in. He explains that the national test, which he had promised our boy would participate in, had been moved up. It was supposed to be in 5 months, but it was pushed forward to 2 months from now. It seems a certain Jin Chenghan is about to reach level 60 and go through the 3rd transformation. Lu Fan quickly realizes this looks like a plan to give this guy an advantage over everyone else. The president says that pitting a bunch of people in their 2nd transformation against this guy will make him an easy winner. The president stands up and says it's a shame that the promise they made will be fulfilled in such an unfair way. At best, he'll be in his 2nd transformation, and facing level 50 experts might just get him killed. He tells our boy that he won't have much time to prepare and asks if he really still wants to be part of this. To make it dramatic, he calls out President Zhao's name, and he says this is his chance to join the expert ranking, so he's not going to miss it. Besides that, he's going to win. The president says that if that's the case, he'll still receive some resources to help him out, and tells him to perform well in the freshman exam. On the day of the exam, the president announces that he'll go over the rules for everyone. It will be a 2-on-2 arena, and first place will earn 5,000 points per person. Everyone is confused by this, since not everyone is friends. Since our boy's aunt is in a combat class, they have 4 people, which is perfect to form 2 teams. Outside, they greet Jian Ying. A guy approaches her, introducing himself with an air of arrogance, but she cuts him off and rejects him immediately. While the guy agonizes, the group walks off, crushing the poor guy's hopes. Our boy says he'll team up with Qin Hu, while Jian Ying will pair with Xiaoman. It skips to the 2nd day with the first matches happening in the arena. A stone beast hurls a guy into the air. The deep web gold jumps in and slashes the other guy. Now I remember, that's Tianzi, the guy who got the girl's dragon. She's praising him, saying they're already reaching the top 16. Tianzi responds that soon enough they'll face the number 1. The princess comments that her brother, Jin Chenghan, will be arriving in the city soon. That's the guy who's cheating to compete in the national event at level 60. The next match is about to start. It seems the teams have changed, and now our boy Wenta is with his goth girl, fully armed, warrior mode engaged. Now the 2 fools are already scared, seeing that Lu Fan and Jian Ying are on the same team. We see a bit of what happened earlier. When he mentioned teaming up with Kin Q, she said it wasn't necessary. They should go together to take first place, while she would team up with Xiaoman to secure second place. He didn't need to worry, they would do their best. And now both of them are in the stands cheering for our boy. He asks Jian Yang if she's interested in taking first place. She responds, of course. We see a bit more of the preparation arena. He had some treasures stored and began synthesizing some maps. Luckily, the quality increased and he received another one. With that, he got a location in the Flying Dragon Cemetery, an area from level 45 to 60. That's when the announcement was made that it was time for the two of them to enter the field. And our boy was excited for the freshman test. In the arena, Jin Ying asked if he was confident against another dragon tamer. He said they could bet that they would win alone. She asked if he wasn't going to summon anything, and he said it wasn't necessary. All this time fighting alongside her, he realized they were quite similar. And if they won, he wanted to know the characteristics of the Swordmaster class she had. At that moment, the test begins and Tianzi charges at the two of them. Angrily, he says he finally has the chance to stomp on Lu Fan. He extends his spear toward him, but our boy disappears. However, our boy just tells Jian Ying that it's too late for her to back out of the bet, and he slashes the guy's dragon. Man, he even throws a punch to the chin, destroying part of the armor. Shanzi asks why the goth girl wasn't doing anything and why he wasn't summoning his dragon. Our boy, to humiliate him, says it's because, for this fight, he doesn't need to use everything he has. Meanwhile, the princess is over there saying she finally got her chance. It seems she wanted to humiliate him again, but she was going to pay the price tenfold. Shanzi then sends the armored dragon to attack him, and our boy jokes, saying that without a tooth, it looks a bit asymmetrical. He leaps toward the creature, saying he'll fix that face. In midair, the dragon stares him down, but our boy lands another solid punch. People are shocked that he knocked down a dragon with a single punch. The princess points at Shanzi and tells him to finish off Lu Fan quickly. He jumps toward our boy, saying he will obey orders. He commands the dragon to activate a tail strike. Knowing that the boy is a tamer, he shouldn't have many movement skills. And with attacks coming from both sides, there was nowhere for him to dodge. However, the blows hit the ground and nothing happens. Our boy was already sitting on the remains of the creature's prey and asks if that's all he can do. Shanzi knows that this earth dragon is many times stronger than a beast of the same level. But even so, our boy wasn't having any difficulty. Suddenly, the princess tells Tianzi to get out of the way. She asks how he's at such a disadvantage when the boy hasn't even summoned his dragon yet. She couldn't recommend him to her brother or even send him to the Taichi kingdom. She uses her ability on the dragon, saying that apparently the princess would have to solve this. Lu Fan remembers that this ability turns the person into a monster, and the earth dragon becomes all distorted and shrouded in a purple aura. It roars upward, and Lu Fan knows things just got complicated. In the arena, everyone comments that the creature looks more like a demon from hell. A frightened Jian Yang starts activating her swords, but our boy tells her to wait and not forget about the bet. He had already experienced this ability once before. At this, the princess tells Jian Yang to attack and take advantage of the buff she gave her, while thinking she's going to steal that damn black dragon from this loser Lu Fan. The princess asks where the attributes are that he claimed were so strong he didn't even need the dragon. But then our boy activates the ice dragon's fury ability. With that, Tianzi's creature is completely immobilized. Also, the two of them are freezing and can barely move. Our boy says that this black magic of hers really strengthened that creature beyond him, but attributes weren't enough to overcome what he does. He runs asking if she really wants his black dragon, and launches an attack in her direction, saying she wasn't worthy. However, Tianzi steps in and defends her. At that moment, the earth dragon breaks free and launches an attack at Lu Fan. He teleports to its back. He activates another spell and uses the blue dragon's roar. People can't understand how it's possible for someone to have such physical strength and magical power at the same time. And Tianzi watches from the side, incredulous. They were both dragon tamers, so why were they so different? Our boy asks why he only uses simple spear attacks and no dragon strikes. Why doesn't he, for example, use a dragon claw strike or something like that? Shanzi is confused because he's never heard of these abilities. Our boy says he understands that's because Jian Yang doesn't have any of those abilities. He tells him to give up because they are completely different types of tamers. Shanzi tells him to shut up, but Lu Fan tells him to stop selling his dignity and being a slave to that princess. Shanzi, however, curses him and tells him to stop with the moral speech. He says that what he's doing is because he lost the position of strongest tamer. He then looks at the princess and asks her to use magic on him that he's willing to risk his life for it. She smiles and says if that's the case, she'll grant his wish. She uses the magic and says this is his last chance. Lu Fan asks why he's so loyal to that princess, knowing her true nature. He responds that the princess did everything for him when he was a nobody, and to become someone of high status, he had to repay that kindness. For the princess, he would do anything. At that moment, he charges at Lu Fan, activating the dragon's spear strike. Our boy just says that instead of hate, he's feeling more pity for him. He activates the extra agility ability and calls for the storm dragon. Shanzi is startled, and our boy delivers a dragon fang strike. Man, the transformation didn't last long. He just apologizes, releasing smoke. Meanwhile, the princess is scared and knowing she's next. She falls backward, saying that if our boy touches her, her brother will seek revenge. But our boy lands the first slap across her face and tells her to go ahead and let her brother know because there's something he owes him. With that, she's left devastated while everyone laughs at her. The president asks everyone to be quiet. He announces the end of the match with our boy and Jian Ying having won. To be honest, I would have preferred if she had participated a little more, right? She was just watching. What's up with that? However, the president turns to another staff member and tells them to take Lu Fan to his office right away. In the office, the president says he's learned about his connection with Princess Jinsu, but he'll have to understand that now he'll face criticism because of it. Our boy says he knows the princess was manipulating Tansy. The president then hands him something, saying this is why he was called there. He also tells him to stop participating in the event because there's no longer any need. Our boy asks if his performance was bad, and the president says it's actually the opposite because they realize he's strong enough to participate in the national test. On the tablet, there are some secret dungeons that are extremely expensive to buy. The president says he can choose one and they'll try to win it at auction. Our boy comments that it's expensive, but the president says they won't spare resources to help him get stronger. That's when our boy says he's found what he wants: the Flying Dragon Cemetery, which is a dungeon above level 55. The next day, the semifinals with our boys group are announced. However, the president announces that Lu Fan's group has withdrawn from the competition. Everyone is confused, wondering if it's because of yesterday's incident. In the dungeon, our boy apologizes to Jian Ying, saying she can't participate because of him. She says it's fine since they'll get the points either way. Besides, she was excited to be in this secret realm with him, as there would be a lot more experience to gain. At that moment, a red-haired guy from above calls out to them. He comes down and tells them not to worry. He introduces himself as being from the secret guild of hunters, known as the Black Rat. Our boy points upward, and the guy says it looks like they're here for the Flying Dragon Cemetery, and he informs them that since they won the bet, they should follow him or her. I'm not sure. Up ahead, she says they spent a lot of money and asks for their levels. Our boy says he's level 25 and Jian Ying is level 24. The Black Rat is shocked and asks if they've lost their minds since that place is meant for level 55. He says he'll contact the academy because they must have made a mistake. Our boy was about to tell him not to worry when part of a tree got cut down. The trunk toppled over, and everyone started running. In that moment, Lu Fan activated the Blue Dragon's ability and electrocuted the flying creature. The Black Rat was confused and asked if he was really just level 25. After all, that was a level 50 creature. Our boy simply told him not to worry, that those creatures weren't a problem for them. I think the guy says, all right, and then says he'll show them the way. A bit later, he opened up some bushes and said that was the entrance to the Dragon's Cemetery. The teleport was connected to that tree. He then departs, saying his job there was done. However, our boy wanted to befriend him as this guy manages secret dungeons and he might need more information. The Black Rat was a bit confused, wondering why. Lu Fan told him not to worry, he would always pay for any information. Since he was looking to negotiate just for locations, he figured there wouldn't be a problem. The guy says, all right, 100,000 for the information, and we'll be friends. Our boy shakes hands and says the deal is done. The Black Rat is impressed, wondering if all the people at that academy are this rich. Meanwhile, Jian Ying says she's heading out because he talks too much. Lu Fan is excited because at the top of the tree is where the map is pointing them to go. But at that moment, both of them are startled. A horde of level 50 flying dragons was coming their way. Our boy tells Jian Ying to get ready. There's a girl at level 25 killing level 50 creatures. She throws her sword into the air to get the dragon's attention. But one of them comes straight at Lu Fan. He summons Shou Yi, who arrives with her mouth full of fire. At the same time, Jian Ying feels a creature coming from behind. In full swag style, she dodges. She hurls a sword at its head and finishes another one off. However, that's when she realizes she's fallen from the tree. She starts calling for her broadsword to fly out of there. The problem is that in the middle of the fall, it looked like the dragon was going to reach her first, but our heroic boy throws himself toward them. He finishes the dragon midair and extends his hand to her. With that, she grabs it and he sinks his dagger into the tree. After slicing through a lot of stuff, they finally stop. Our boy tells her to be more careful since their destination wasn't down there. Blushing, she says she's been saved again. But at that moment, they both notice something else approaching. Out of nowhere, a giant white dragon passes by the two of them. Our boy calls for Shou Yi, who's all beaten up, until a skeletal dragon appears in front of her. The creature lunges to bite her, and she's just standing there. Man, it looks like it hit her hard. Our boy jumps with Jian Ying, and the two face the berserker bone dragon. He tells her not to worry. Shou Yi should be fine. With that, he starts running, but Jian Ying warns him to be careful. Our boy calls for Shou Yi and tells her to enter destruction mode. She was indeed in the dragon's mouth. She shifts form, destroying the creature's entire jaw. He immediately summons Shou Fei and tells her to give the Emerald Blessing. With 3 crystals on her head, he calls Shou Fei to come along. He leads with his dagger and she lets out a roar. The creature is stunned and Lu Fan lands another blow. But suddenly, it activates a bone storm and starts tearing everything apart around them. Suddenly, a red attack streaks across the dragon's head. and a sight starts dismembering it. Lu Fan didn't know what was happening. Jian Ying says she'll explain it all at once. It's time for her to fulfill her promise and explain how the Swordmaster class works. Our boy tells Xiaofi to get ready. Jian Ying explains that her class gets a new weapon every 5 levels, and the Calamity Scythe was her trump card. That weapon permanently increases its attack by 0.1% every time it kills a creature. She activates an explosion of sin that starts breaking the skeleton in half. Lu Fan realizes that Swordmasters don't gain new abilities but instead gain new weapons. He then tells Xiaofei it's her turn. She approaches Xiao Yi and places the 3 crystals on her head. With that, he commands her to use Earth Smash, extending her claw and striking down on the bone dragon. The entire ground crumbles and the creature is buried. Xiaofi levels up to 15 and gains another transformation form. Meanwhile, Jian Ying is sad that she used her trump card, but most of the power came from Xiaofi's buff. Our boy then thanks her for saving him and says that even Xiaofei evolved. She unlocked the form of the Eternal Dragon and the form of the Spiritual Light. He congratulates her by giving her a pat on the head, and Jian Ying says it's time to climb this tree again. Suddenly, a barrage of fire comes from above. Everyone starts running, wondering why they're being attacked by magic. Our boy hides, knowing that the noise from the fight with the bone dragon must have attracted more people. Looking to the side, he sees a legion of dragons flying with a giant one on its back. Man, that one really looks like a final boss. In Xiaofei's light form, she can grant the abilities of soul protection and soul impact. He then tells Xiaofei to assume the light form and stay close to Xiao Ye. He starts running and tells Jian Ying to follow. They are heading straight to the top. With that, the 2 dragons transform once again. The soul protection would increase attributes by 200% and absorb part of all incoming damage. The only problem was that Xiaofei wouldn't be able to do anything else. Man, Xiao Yi already had 26,000 strength. Jian Ying is impressed, and our boy explains that Xiaofei's buffs are even stronger on other types of dragons. Now the birds in the sky launch a barrage of attacks. Our boy tells Xiao Yi not to counterattack, just to keep moving forward. Easily, Xiaofei's spiritual form was absorbing everything. She already had a 10 on her head, and our boy tells her to use the key explosion. With that, she releases everything she had absorbed and sends an aura upward. The poor dragons start falling from the sky. Jian Ying asks about the new ability, and our boy explains it to her. She's impressed to see that the dragons had evolutions far more complex than the weapons. Our boy then stops and says the boss was just ahead. A level 60 steel dragon. It uses a steel charge attack that destroys any creature with less than 10,000 points. Jian Ying warns him to be careful, but our boy tells her not to worry. And once again, he tells Xiaofei to activate the soul impact. With that, Xiao Yi is surrounded by a green energy, and our boy says now it's her turn to handle this. He activates the dragon's inspiration. And man, with that, she reached 34,000 strength points. She slams her paw into the steel dragon's neck while Xiaofei fires a laser. Whoa! They tore off its paw. The dragon immediately turns to the 2 of them, and Jian Ying activates her power, saying they need to run. Trying to create an escape opportunity, she activates the explosion of sin and hits the dragon's neck. Who would have thought our goth girl was this strong? Or maybe not that strong, since the steel dragon tanked the attack. She tells Lu Fan that, unfortunately, she can't deal any damage, and he says it's okay. He understands her desire to contribute to the team, so he tells Xiaofei to link with him. He stretches out his dagger and withstands the dragon's attack. At the same time, Xiaofei strikes its head from above. With that, they finish the boss and everyone celebrates. Xiaofei also gains a new intimidation ability. Jian Ying, as impressed as always, also levels up to 25. Our boy comments that she's been talking a lot lately. He says spending so much time with him is starting to change her. Our boy says the first time he heard her voice, he thought it was adorable. She gets embarrassed, wanting to know what's with this adorable voice thing. With that, they keep talking and walking through the forest. Meanwhile, the 2 dragons are biting at each other, wanting to kill this girl. At the top of the tree, among a bunch of cocoons, there's a blue dragon egg. Our boy then asks if she unlocked a new weapon upon reaching level 25. She shows the new sword and says it seems really good because of its agility effect. The sword could split into thousands of petal blades, each dealing 10% of the original damage. Our boy says that when those swords level up, they'll be really powerful. However, Jian Ying is just thinking that even at level 25, those swords wouldn't do anything compared to his dragons. She realizes she's feeling a lot of pressure being in a team with him, as she's always comparing herself. He then says they should get going, and she says it looks like their destination is just ahead. But the 2 dragons seem to have found something. A dead guy with a lot of stuff around him. It seems like this was a group of old adventurers who came to this place as well. Just as our boy tells her to be careful of their surroundings, something comes from above. A level 60 bronze dragon appears, and right after that, another creature appears in the sky. A level 65 elemental 3-headed dragon, which was a boss. The 2 of them are startled, and Jian Ying wonders if this is a trap. At that moment, the 3-headed dragon starts casting a triple spell. Xiaofei leaps in and slaps the fool's face. With that, she interrupts the spell, but the dragon just stares at her. Meanwhile, the bronze dragon comes charging in and she says the two of them will have to handle it. Our boy tells her to get ready to use the new ability. It's a good chance to evolve it. He rushes ahead and tells Xiaofi and Xiaoyi to get ready to use their abilities. Our boy strikes and Xiaofei activates the dragon defense and soul impact. Meanwhile, Xiaoyi is dodging the three-headed dragon's triple attack. Our boy tells her to use the new intimidation ability. She prepares a punch, transforms again, and lets out a roar at the three-headed dragon. With that, the creature becomes frightened and paralyzed for a few moments, terrified, trembling all over. The problem was that the skill even affected Jian Ying, who was behind. Our boy then receives Xiaofi's buff again and delivers an attack to the bronze dragon. He tells Xiaofi to take advantage of the stunned state. She grabs the three-headed dragon and slams it into the ground. With that, the screen starts to turn green. Our boy notices that lately Xiaofei has been quite destructive. Man, everyone leveled up a lot. As always, Jian Ying felt sad for not having helped and wondered if she had really become a useless genius. But our boy just tells them to find a place to rest while Xiaofei finishes off the three-headed dragon. He then notices something in the status window. But night falls, Jian Ying brings some food, saying it was prepared by his aunt. But outside the camp, there was no one around. She wondered if he had realized she was useless and abandoned her. Man, this goth girl seems more like an emo now. Meanwhile, Lu Fen is approaching the treasure's location. He finally arrives face to face with a basket with two giant eggs on top. He didn't want her to know the real reason he had come to this place. However, the eggs crack and the soul of the Dragon King emerges. The status window says level 1, but our boy says it's level 70, so I'll believe him. He prepares and tells them not to underestimate the level difference. The dragon leaps toward them and he says they need to take this seriously. Meanwhile, Jian Ying is only hearing the noises. She imagines that since he always has to save her, he must be tired of having her in the group. She didn't want to be an obstacle anymore because he wanted to conquer this place. She recalls all the moments when Lu Fan told her she'd get stronger, like when he thanked her for saving him. She started thinking that if she wasn't as strong as him, she'd have to find another way to help. Meanwhile, our boy is still fighting. Killing a level 70 creature alone was quite tough. He told Xiaofi to prepare the lava hell while using Xiaofi's buff. She activated both attacks and went toward the Dragon King. One hit landed squarely on its chest and the flames started to spread. However, the soul would shake off any physical resistance and went after Lu Fan's back. Our boy, startled, tried to activate Xiaofi's spiritual form in time, but the dragon was bombarded by a rain of swords. Our boy didn't know what had happened. Obviously, Jian Ying had arrived to help our boy. This was the new ability she had received, and she told our boy not to worry, that she wouldn't take any risks. Our boy just smiled and said he understood. He activates a new ability from Xiaofi that grants 2 buffs, not only to her, but to everyone around. Additionally, she now had 12 attack buffs and 12 defense buffs. Our boy tells Xiaofi to go after it. With that, she charges at the dragon and slams it down. Lu Fan prepares a spell and uses the blue dragon's fury. But suddenly, a golden light shines in the sky, and our boy recognizes it as a boss's magic. It replaced the boss's abilities with the dragon language abilities, which were much stronger. He sends an attack in Xiaofi's direction, who creates the Apocalypse Fall, dealing 2000% damage. Man, the whole place gets wiped out. And when the smoke clears, Xiaofei had saved the poor souls. Otherwise, everyone would have died. Apparently, the dragon killed itself to make that attack because even Jian Ying leveled up, saying she was scared she might have died. Once again, everyone advanced, with our boy reaching level 29. Our boy noticed that Xiaofei was jealous and kept complimenting her. That's when Jian Ying says she now understands why he didn't take that fight in the arena seriously. He then explains that he wasn't trying to abandon her, but was looking for something when he stumbled upon the boss. She reminds him of the day he said they never let their teammates fight alone. Now all healed and cheerful, she says she knows he's strong, but she won't leave him alone. The scene shifts to our boy opening the treasure. What he finds are the spiritual wings of the Dragon King. The item allowed the user to fly and also enhanced draconic abilities. The problem clearly was the level 60 requirement. However, there was another item that allowed any pet to become a mount and combine part of their attributes. Man, there was also a flute that allowed the user to summon the soul of the Dragon King 7 times, and it would have the same level as the user. Our boy is just sad because it's limited to being used 7 times. At that moment, Jian Ying asks what's happening with Xiaofei. She was using the life spring, continuously increasing her HP. The energy seemed to be spreading throughout the forest. The two of them soon noticed that the tree seemed to have been healed, but her abilities only affected allies. Apparently, the sacred tree itself was an ally in this place. He continues to observe as the plants seem to be moving. Suddenly, one of the roots stretches toward him. At the tip of it appears a seed from the sacred dragon tree. It says that he would need to kill the abyssal dragon and the devourer and submerge the seed in their blood. With that, he would receive the favor of the true master, a dragon of life, which was the root of all things. He imagined that this abyssal dragon must be a creature close to level 80, so he would have to wait a while before attempting it. But he praises Xiaofei, saying that if it weren't for her, they would never have found this secret treasure. Then he gets an idea and asks if Xiao Fei could eat that flute. This is because she had a natural assimilation trait that allowed her to devour equipment and convert the stats into abilities she possessed. He gives it to her to eat, saying it might not work because it was a consumable. Immediately, she swallows it, and our boy knows that if it doesn't work, he's lost the item for good. However, the flute is assimilated and he gains its ability. Right away, she uses it, and the shadow of the dragon appears on her back. Since Xiao Fei was level 18, the dragon that appears is also level 18. Jian Ying is shocked, realizing he has a pet that has its own dragon pet. She says they need to return because everyone must be worried. However, he tells her she can go ahead, as he still has something very important to do. It seems we will see what happened with the egg because we're back at the academy. Our boy, arms crossed, says it's time they talk about this. He complains about the two constantly fighting and tells them to look at that egg. Another family member was about to arrive, so they should treat this new one well. The item is a stellar dragon egg, and our boy says to consider it a new member of the family. He uses the ability, eager to see what will hatch this time. However, the talent doesn't activate, and the egg remains intact. That's when he sees that to hatch another creature, he needs to become a dragon master by reaching level 30. But considering he was already level 29, it might not take too long. He then tells the two that tomorrow will be another day in the spider forest. The next day arrives. Qin Shu and Xiaoman are knocking on the door, wanting to know where our boy is. He wakes up groggy and she tells him he needs to check out this post that's been circulating around the school. He's confused, wondering if he was woken up to look at a social media post. The message said that Lu Fan dropped out of that championship match because he was afraid of losing. He asks who these people from the Fengyun Pavilion are, claiming he's scared. She explains that the group has the Academy's number 6 and number 3, with more than 30 members. Our boy feels a bit disappointed that he's the school's number 1, but everyone thinks he's afraid of these Fengyun Pavilion guys. Xiaoman explains that the leader of that group, Jiang Fengju, said he's going to take Lu Fan's number 1 spot. This could also cost him his qualification for the national championship, and our boy already understands what Jiang is trying to do. However, he just smiles and says that if they want fun, they'll get it. He borrows her tablet and says he's going to respond, as that's what they're looking for. The scene shifts to the arena area. A member of the pavilion named Xu Jing sees the message on his laptop and informs the leader, Jiang Fengju, that Lu Fan has responded. At that moment, two side characters charge at him. However, the real side character activates his power and sends out a bunch of clones. The side characters of the side character are impressed with the side character. But that's it, right guys? He smashes them and they fall to the ground because, well, you know how it is. Xiaoman shows the post and says he needs to check it out. The leader says that Lu Fan is very arrogant for challenging the entire pavilion. He tells them to respond, telling Lu Fan to come to this arena after tomorrow's final. And obviously, the entire pavilion gathers because that's what he wants. He's going to show this guy who the real number 1 is. In the post, our boy called them trash and said if they really want to know who's number 1, they should challenge him to a duel. The girls commented that today the pavilion would be participating in a semifinal, and they could go watch. However, our boy was far more interested in going to this secret realm to keep farming. That older aunt is still growing, guys. She tells our boy to be careful and not to be too overconfident. However, Qin Q says that since he's number 1, people will think he's scared if he just goes to watch. The aunt suggests disguising him, and the next second, he's in the arena looking not suspicious at all in this outfit. But with a smile, Hank says no one will recognize him like this. Except at the moment they announce the match is about to start, Lu Fan stands up. She asks why, and he just says this isn't interesting and that he's going for a walk. Meanwhile, the director is just observing. Or maybe he's not the director because he's knocking on the director's door. He's asking the person inside if they've heard about the challenge between Lu Fan and Jiang Fengyan. But their voice tells Shengming to let others handle the matters between the freshmen, as he doesn't want to be informed. However, Shengming is worried about what might happen and that the pavilion members could end up in a hospital like Lu Fan's last target. But their voice says he should be more concerned with the envoy from the Dragon Capital who's coming to check on Lu Fan. He then asks how Lu Fan's preparation is going. Shengming says Lu Fan is about to advance to the 2nd class and assures him that a guy he knows named Qian Shang won't cause trouble for him. However, the voice warns that the envoy this time would be a man named Ruan Chengfeng. The president knows that this Ruan Chengfeng was affected by the dispute between our boy and the princess. And the voice says this guy once held a high position but has been losing rank, and now he's just a city envoy. They ask why he is silent and apologize. They explain that if this guy is the envoy, Lu Fan will face many difficulties. However, the voice just says that Lu Fan is his personal selection, and that's why he's being sent. The president says he understands and will help the boy advance to the 2nd class as quickly as possible. The voice then says they are looking forward to watching the exciting event tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the training room where points can be earned, a guy is thrown out. People were saying that there was someone inside at level 29, but it was impossible to beat them. Our boy wanted to farm the spider dungeon, but he was there waiting for them to finish the match. At that moment, another challenger appears. And man, what arrives is clearly the biggest danger in the story. The girl shows up with 36 frames, waving to our boy and asking if he wants a fight. He calls her miss, and she replies that since his level is lower, she'll let him start. Our boy just says there's no me for that, and she can go ahead. She smiles and says that if that's the case, she won't hold back. She summons a flame in her hand and warns that she's coming. However, Lufan realizes something is wrong with this girl. She's already transformed and even pulled out that little devil's trident. In a second, she vanishes and reappears behind Lufan, saying she's different from the others. She goes in for a stab, saying it's good that he's giving it 100%. He turns, manages to defend himself, but is thrown far away. Already wondering what level this girl could be to be so strong. Man, I don't know what level she is, but I agree that she's strong. She's not the type to hold back and says that if he's only going to defend, she'll have to teach him a lesson. Our boy says he understands, and with that, the two charge at each other. A frantic exchange of attacks begins. The people outside are all startled by the noise and wonder when it will end. At that moment, it's announced that the match outside in the arena has ended. The pavilion team had won, and Sujing says he heard that Lufan came to watch their match. Fenjin throws his hand up and tells Lufan that his arrogance will end. In tomorrow's fight between the two, he wouldn't last a minute. However, the girls are all wondering where he's seen Lufan since he left a while ago. Our boy is in a much better fight. Or rather, he's in a much more dangerous fight, trying to figure out who this powerful senior is. She lifts his cap and says he's getting used to her movements too quickly. However, Lufan had already realized that if she wanted, she could have finished him off much faster, so why was she dragging this out? The older sister says he seems like a man with little energy, but he has a handsome face. She gets closer and asks why he's been hiding it. Even our unstoppable Lufan is a little flesh-right man. He apologizes, saying that unfortunately, he has to take this call. Then he tells her that he has to go, but first he wants her contact. She replies that she didn't think he was bold enough to ask for the number of a girl he just met. He is all flustered, saying he just wanted to plan another training session. But she doesn't give him her number and says if he wants to see her again, he should just open another one of these point rooms. Our boy is left wondering if she's a teacher. After all, he clearly didn't stand a chance against her, and in the end, he still earned the 100 points. He runs out, desperately calling for her, wanting to at least know the identity of this crazy woman. However, at that moment, someone calls out to our boy. It's his aunt and her friends wanting to know why he's in such a hurry. He heads toward them exhausted, wanting to know who that mysterious woman was. The next day, it was the match between the pavilion and our boy. Fenjin brought everyone, wanting to know where that so-called number 1 Lufan was. At that moment, someone comes running, and everyone gets ready. Our boy apologizes, saying that unfortunately, he made everyone wait. He walks in with bread in his mouth, saying get started because he has other things to do later. People were about to complain, but our boy says he arrived right on time. Lufan then says he doesn't know what level everyone in the pavilion is, but they could start with everything right away. The bald guy, who is probably going to be one of the first to get beaten up, asks if our boy is looking for death. However, Fengyun says enough talking and announces he's betting 7,000 points on this fight. Our boy says he forgot about that detail and says he alone will bet 17,000 points. Sujing says they don't have that much, but Fengyun tells him to shut up. If they won all those points, they wouldn't have to worry about anything else at the academy. So he declares that the pavilion will bet all the points they have in this fight. Lufan smiles and says that if everything is at stake, they can begin. The leader warns the guy next to him that Lufan is probably going to summon that dragon girl. He tells everyone in the pavilion to be prepared. Lufan is just smiling, standing still, while everyone in the pavilion is already pointing their weapons at him. The leader gives the order to attack, and Sujing slams his staff on the ground, throwing out chains. That magic would immobilize Lufan for 5 seconds, and everyone jumps toward him, wanting to finish him off before he summons the dragon. However, Lufan easily breaks free and draws his dragon dagger. The leader strikes, not understanding how he easily freed himself from the control. At that moment, Lufan grabs him by the chest and throws him to the ground like a fool. Everyone is shocked that Lufan had thrown the guy to the ground without any effort. Sujing activates another spell and reduces Lufan's movement by 75%. He seizes the opportunity to cast a second spell and sends a barrage of explosions in his direction. However, Lufan is unharmed and smiling, asking if that's all the top examinees had to offer. Stepping on the leader's head, he says it looks like they were nothing special. Sujing wonders why Lufan seemed unharmed even though the magic hit him directly. Obviously, with a 10% increase in attributes due to the patches, none of that did any damage. Poor Fenjin is still underfoot, trying to break free. He uses his ultimate skill, creating a bunch of clones around Lufan. While Sujing is in despair, the rest of the group says the leader will finally win now. Our boy raises his hand and says that since he won the championship, he'll show something even Chanzi didn't get to see. Everyone is shocked. And man, he really summoned Xiao Yi. She flaps her wings and the barrage of fire starts destroying all of Fengyun's clones. At that moment, everyone in the pavilion falls to the ground, wondering if that was a real dragon. Even Fengyun, looking up, admits that this was something completely different from what Tanzi had summoned. Our boy tells Jiang not to fall just yet. He activates the dominance ability and warns that the counterattack is still coming. The pavilion members who are trying to flee are all affected by the roar. Poor Fengjin tries to escape, but he doesn't even have the energy to move. He begins losing consciousness, saying it was impossible to escape from this place. At that moment, our boy earns 13,000 points and thanks the pavilion. The people on the ground are all devastated, realizing they have nothing left. Our boy praises Shou Yi and says now they have something more important to do. Our boy heads back to the point room, and just then, a pair of sandals steps in. The senior had returned and asks if he wasn't there waiting for her all alone. Our boy says of course he was waiting for the big sister, especially since he knows she's the only one above level 70. She hadn't noticed that he'd set that level limit in the room. Meanwhile, in the arena, they examine Fengyun's body. Shaming thanks Lu Fan, saying it seems like he held back. Even though everyone had fallen, no one was in any real danger. Back in the room, the mysterious senior asks if he's plotting against her. Our embarrassed boy explains that he set the limit, so clearly she's not a senior since she's such a high level. She asks if he knows her identity and says maybe she's a teacher. She laughs and says if that's the case, he can call her senior. She approaches, saying that now that he's not hiding his face, it's much better to look at. She warns him that if she sees the minimum level limit next time, she won't enter the room. The danger transforms, saying she saw him use some of what she taught him in that fight against Fengyun. Lu Fan smiles and says it looks like she watched the match. She says yes and thanks him for putting everyone to sleep as soon as he summoned the dragon. Our boy thanks her for the compliment, but admits he still has a lot to improve in close combat. At that moment, she almost lands a spear strike to his face. Man, she really hit him? And he asks why she did that. Now a bit angry, she says he's still too weak to be showing off his humility. Man, the poor boy can't even be humble. Desperate, Lu Fan says she's strong and kind and he's willing to pay any price for her to teach him. She laughs at his desperation and says if he wants, he just has to bring the food his sister makes. He decides not to correct her by saying it's actually his aunt and says it's all good. She then tells him to come at her with everything since she's here waiting. She blocks the attack and says he's coming in too fast. In that case, she bets that if he manages to knock her down once today, she'll give him a new weapon. That's because the weapon he's using is no longer suitable for his fighting style. Just like her, he should have a high-quality weapon. However, our boy explains that it's only with this weapon that he can partially transform into a dragon. She jumps to the ceiling and asks if that's the case, then what else is he asking for? He dodges and says what he's asking for is a level removal enchantment. The 70 kilo thigh asks if he knows how rare and expensive those items are. Lu Fan tries to defend himself as he sees her coming at him with full force. She warns him she'll beat him up for having the audacity to ask for something like that. Sometime later, he's getting a massage from his aunt, saying he didn't manage to land a single hit on the girl. Jian Ying says she must not be a teacher from the capital. And Qin Chu comments that our boy is on the forums again. But this time, it's our boy, and in this photo, he looks like he's in Yujio, with that card in his hand. Jian Ying says that now, with this, he must have taken over the pavilion and will be idolized by its former supporters. However, Lu Fan says he's not too interested in that, as he just wants to focus on his objectives. Jian Ying then wants to know what those objectives are. Next scene, they're back in the arena dungeon for our boy to level up. After numerous tries, this had become incredibly easy. And finally, our boy reaches level 30. King Chu was happy while the aunt, as usual, was throwing up. The girls were excited for him to go to the class change hall. Walking through the academy, now everyone recognizes him as the guy who took down the pavilion. The boy even got a fan club, and that girl over there is holding the Yu Jiao photo in her hand. Haseoman says it seems her friend was right, and now everyone has become a fan of our boy. The aunt then says they'll have no choice but to change his outfit again. Now, every time he goes out, he'll have to wear a hood, mask, sunglasses, and a cap. Our boy apologizes for being such a hassle to walk around with. Haseoman says she wishes she were being followed by a bunch of people too. Jian Ying says no one at the school has ever reached his second dragon class, so he'll have to figure it out on his own. An excited Kim Q says this is his chance to make history in this place. Haseoman pats him on the shoulder and says they've arrived, wishing him good luck. He thanks everyone and says he's going in. With that, he swipes his card and enters the class change hall. Unlike the first awakening and the second one, you can choose the direction you want to go. However, as he expected, the academy system had no information about his class. A blue aura begins to surround his body and the academy wishes him good luck. Our boy then starts seeing the various paths he could choose for his second class change. He had the Dragon Priest, which, let's be honest, is garbage. He's never going to pick that filthy trash. He also had the Dragon Summoner, which is probably trash too, and the next one must be insane. Lastly, there was the Dragon Flame Knight, which was way more stylish, so of course, that's what he's going to pick. He's got that dumb look on his face like he doesn't already know what he's going to choose. But then we're surprised. There was a fourth class, the Dragon Knight. Clearly, because it's bigger and more stylish, that's the one he'll choose, especially considering that this profession had more abilities that synergize with pets. Obviously, our boy says it's the one that suits him best, right? Outside, everyone's talking about the class changes, and I found it strange that it was taking so long. The aunt asks for patience because this must be a very important moment for him. And Jane exaggerates, saying his choice could change the direction of the era they live in. When Qin Chu mentions the importance of it, our boy appears. All the girls, excited, turn around eager to know what his new class is. Our boy says he'll explain everything at home. His stats had increased a lot, but the most important thing was that the contract now had 3 slots. On the way, the aunt asks if he'll have to learn how to ride a dragon. He says one of the reasons he chose this class is that he already has an item that will help him do that. All he needs is for Fee and Shoei to reach level 30 and then it will be available. However, the aunt is concerned, saying that riding dragon girls sounds a bit strange. Our boy tells his aunt to stop imagining weird things when someone appears and says he's finally back. It's Mrs. Dangerous and he asks why she's here. She says she should have given him her contact because apparently he wasted a lot of time. At that moment, Xiaoman says, "So this is the aunt who trained him so hard he came home exhausted." But the curvy one asks the aunt if she's Hank, the one who makes spiritual food. She confirms, and the mysterious woman says she'll need the boy for a little while. The girls are confused, but she says it's just for a few tasks in Dragon City. The aunt says that if that's the case, she can take him, but to bring him back before dinner. And the curvy woman says she'll return him in one piece. Watching quietly from the side is Jin Ying, and our boy wonders why he doesn't have a say in any of this. The scene changes to her speeding through the city in a car, and our boy is on his phone. She asks why he's so quiet. He responds by asking where they're going. She says it's obvious, they're going to buy him a little present, an extremely rare enchantment known as level removal. Man, but it's going to be competitive since they've arrived at an auction. He asks what they're doing there, and she says it's obvious. The item is going to be auctioned off. He remembers that getting the right to go to that dungeon was extremely expensive, and he tells her that maybe it's better for them to give up. But she just asks where his excitement is and says she's a lot richer than he thinks. Our boy doesn't want to owe her too many favors and says he'll find a way to pay for all of this. With that, the announcer welcomes everyone to the Tianhua auction house. Man, the first item up is the level removal scroll. The materials to make it are extremely rare, and there's only a 0.35% chance of success. The bids start at 950 million, but within seconds, they're already at 2 billion. Another guy bids 2.3 billion, and she tells our boy that she's going to teach him something. If you want to win an auction, you have to be decisive. But just as she's about to bid, a guy behind them raises his hand and offers 3 billion. Man, it was none other than the damn princess with a lunatic by her side. At that moment, both of them recognize her, and the curvy woman says it looks like they're going to have to spend a lot more. However, she tells our boy not to worry. She's going all in. She raises her paddle and says the enchantment will be his, offering 4 billion. At that moment, the princess and the idiot in front of her are shocked. The guy next to the princess says they brought 5 billion. So they could raise the bid. But at the same moment, the curvy woman raises the bid to 5 billion. Everyone is confused, wondering why the woman made a higher bid than herself. What our boy is thinking it's better to let the princess have it because there's no way he'll have 5 billion to pay for it. However, with that, they congratulate the girl whose name I still don't know. That's when the two in the back realize it was Lu Fan. They start heading to the VIP room. The princess is furious, saying that that despicable person was trying to mess with her again. She leaves the table, saying that as soon as her brother arrives, they'll deal with those useless people. The scene shifts to the VIP area. Wow, it can't be that with all this detail and attention, this woman came just to deliver the scroll. The nameless curvy woman hugs her and asks who the boy accompanying her is. She introduces him as her junior and says the scroll is a gift for him. However, her friend sees some mischief and asks if he's that kind of junior. She introduces herself to our boy as Du Yakshu, the owner of the auction house. Unfortunately, she's the wife of the curvy woman's brother. If you think about it, she donated 5 billion to a place her brother owns as well. So that's pure money laundering. Immediately, our excited boy opens the scroll he's been wanting so badly. Meanwhile, Big Sis swipes her card, already realizing her account is about to be emptied. She turns to Lu Fan and tells him he better think about how he's going to pay her back those 5 billion. Then she turns back and tells him there was another reason she brought him here. She explains that at the auction house there's something called the Codex. As long as you bring an item they've never seen before, you can earn some money just by showing it. It's different from selling, and you earn 3% of the item's value just for displaying it. She explains that this way the auction gets some publicity with your item, and everyone benefits. And of course, if you want, you can sell it in the future for whatever people offer. Our boy, knowing he has several items, says he might earn those 5 billion much faster than he thought. So he tells Du Yakshu that he wants to register this item in the Codex. She says that it's worth at least 2 billion, which means he would receive 3% or 60 million. Our boy thought it was a convenient method, but it's clearly going to be tough to earn those 5 billion. He then says he has something much rarer than the soul wing, and he shows her the stellar dragon egg, asking what she thinks of it. Du Yakshu is immediately shocked and recognizes him as the dragon tamer from the southern province. The mysterious woman asks if he's going to have a second dragon now. Poor thing, she doesn't even know that with the flute you could probably summon 5 now. Du Yakshu then says she'll have to take back what she said, as she has no idea how much that's worth. Lu Fan asks if they can't put it in the Codex. She grabs him immediately, saying that's definitely not the case, They have to put it in the codex because it'll mark history. And the mysterious woman is standing there, thinking she clearly bet on the right person. Duyaksu says that if he agrees to put the egg in the codex, she'll let him take one item from the auction house per month. She says that if that's the case, she can register both. Excited, she tells him that his bonus of one item per month has already begun. Our boy smiles, saying there's already something he wants for free. With that, he leaves the room. Obviously, he chose the scroll for free, so now he doesn't owe the curvy one anything. She's angry since he paid off the debt so quickly, and she couldn't even take advantage of this favor. Our boy leaves, excited that now, once a month, he'll get a new item. At that moment, the treasure rankings begin to update, and he wonders if he'll show up. Suddenly, his egg appears as the #1 treasure. Everyone starts screaming in a frenzy, wanting to know why there was a real dragon egg there. And our boy realizes the value of the codex. After much effort, they finally escape the crowd. Our boy realizes that maybe he could have asked for more things. He asks the mysterious woman where her car is, but she spins the key and says they're back on the motorcycle. She tells him not to stall and to hop on. Our boy blushes a bit, seeing that she enjoys riding. Or maybe he's blushing for another reason and she tells him to get on quickly. As soon as he mounts, she accelerates and tells him to hold on tight. On the way, she mentions that now that he's leveled up, he has 3 dragon slots. That's when she realizes that if he has 3 slots and was holding that egg, then he probably already has 2. He tells her to focus on the road, but she says that many people consider dragons to be like gods, and here he is so young, already having 3. Our boy simply asks why she's helping him and wants to know who she really is. But she just says he still has to pass the first test, so the time hasn't come yet. She warns that an envoy is coming to the academy, and he'll have to be approved by him to participate in the national exam. It's someone above level 70, so she's worried he might destroy our boy. But she's driving and he asks why he seems so calm about it. Our boy says that training with her, there's no way he could lose. No matter what this guy tries to do, he's going to qualify for the national event. She laughs, saying that if he's so confident, she can only trust him too. But seeing that it's nighttime, she apologizes for taking so long. At that moment, our boy equips the soul wing of the Dragon King. He approaches her hand and tells her he's about to speed up. She better hold on. Matney took off flying, but it seems her motorcycle went even further. With that, he drops her off in front of the academy and says he's heading out. She waves goodbye, thinking that this boy is quite obedient. She thought she would have to escort him to the door and ask him to go in, but that's fine. She likes it when the guy is a bit more passive. Man, this woman was definitely having some thoughts about our boy. Meanwhile, our boy is back home with his dragons, all asleep like him. But now, with no other distractions, he finally pulls out the stellar dragon egg. He tells the two that it didn't work out last time, but they better remember to get along with whoever comes out of it. He begins activating the taming effect, telling the third one to appear. A light starts to shine and the two are curious to see what's coming. A bunch of stars and constellations begin appearing in the sky. When our boy looks down, the stellar dragon, all blue and black, was right there on the ground. It had a damage absorption ability and an ability that caused area damage. And our boy immediately sees that it's a combat type with physical damage. The most impressive thing is that it seemed to have doubled Xiaofi's initial stats. Not to mention that at level 20, with these base stats, it would already surpass 10,000 points. He thought Xiao Yi was specialized in physical attacks, but now he sees she's a bit more magical. Not to mention it had a stellar scale ability that seemed really good for absorbing damage for 60 seconds. As soon as our boy turns around, the dragon goes to punch Xiao Fei. When he sees them all surrounding him, he says it's time to name their new sister. Here he goes again, certainly with another Xiao name. He decides to name it Extinction, which means star. Xiao Yi doesn't seem to like it, and our boy says he'll try to come up with a better name later. But seeing the little dragon so calm, he figures the name must be fine since it didn't get irritated. The scene then shifts to the country of Tai Chi in the level 60 area. A group is in the middle of a desert. A knight asks Shengyan what the problem is. This guy is the princess's brother, and it seems she asked him to avenge her against a certain person. The girls in the group ask if she's being humiliated over in Dragon Country. The brother says yes, and apparently it wasn't just once. That girl, even as she grew up, was still pampered by him. A guy with glasses asks if he's going to Dragon Country to kill him, and Chengyan just replies that of course he is. As her favorite brother, he would help eliminate any problem she had. And he says that when he gets the last piece of the cursed set, he'll head to Dragon City. Not only will he help his sister, but he'll also destroy that country's future. The strongest person this year will be from Tai Chai. The group says that if he participates, victory is guaranteed. In the following weeks, Lu Fan's life calmed down and he regularly had intense training sessions with his teacher. The best option was still the Spider Cave, so he kept going there every day to level up his dragons. The girls in the group had all reached level 30 as well. Now they were excited to evolve to the second tier. And now that his entire team is about to evolve, they can finally go to a more advanced dungeon. Jian Ying unlocked the Sword Dancer class. Since she's not the strongest, it's a class with effects that can help the group more. Qin Shu, on the other hand, decided to follow a more aggressive path, given that Xiao Fei handles the healing. Our boy comments that only one more is left. Xiaoman seemed really excited and Qin Hu asked what class she got. With all that excitement, it seemed like it must have been something secret. What she unlocked was the Water Ripple Swordsman profession, which is part of the magical fencing set, one of the hidden classes. Jian Ying congratulates her, saying that unlocking a hidden class in the second evolution is much rarer. Our boy comments that she was a bit weak for the team anyway, and she threatens to take him down. However, he gets a call from the president informing him that the national envoy was arriving. The next scene shows them all in the auditorium. Gu Han tells him that the person coming to evaluate them is called Xian Feng, a level 76 knight. On the stage, our boy sees a guy holding a staff, and he remembers that staff was the second most valuable treasure in the auction codex. He then asks Gu Han if she knows who the person in the cloak is. She explains that it's the new president of the Dragon Academy, who took over 2 years ago. He asks what this person's abilities are, and Gu Han explains that no one knows anything about them. This person doesn't attend any events and even uses a voice modifier to communicate. At that moment, people announce that the envoy was arriving. As soon as they look back, the entourage enters, and Xian Feng immediately asks where the president of this place is. The vice president awkwardly introduces himself. However, the chubby knight just ignores him, saying he wants to speak to the president directly and doesn't want to waste his time. He asks if all the candidates have arrived. The person in the white hood simply signals yes, and the vice president says there was only one candidate named Lu Fan. Our boy notes that this envoy seems like a tough guy who has been through many life and death situations. And Gu Han says that everyone is taking a big risk by recommending only him. The envoy says that if they chose just one person, it seems his opinion doesn't even matter. The vice president, however, responds that he's sure Lu Fan will impress him. Xian Feng laughs and says the boy does seem promising. A level 32 Dragon Knight, champion of the Southern Province, and also the #1 among the students. He approaches our boy and says that his life must be so easy that he probably doesn't even understand the struggles of other people. Lu Fan already realized that this guy was full of hostility toward him. And Xian Feng says that since the academy trusts him so much, it's time for him to take a test. Man, he immediately strikes, and our boy defends himself. The people tell him to take it easy, because he's a level 76 testing someone at level 32. But the envoy keeps throwing attacks, saying that since he was chosen, he must pass the test. His mission was to select 22 people to represent the nation, so he couldn't go easy on this guy. Lu Fan can't defend himself and can't summon the dragon because there are too many people in the room. Xian Feng insists on hitting him, saying he wants to see what he's capable of. He lands a strike on his hand, wanting to see the person who made him lose his high-ranking position and reduced him to just an envoy. But at that moment, someone raises his staff and says he's getting way too excited. They strike the ground, saying they'll move to a different place. With that, a magic circle appears beneath everyone. In the next second, our boy, the master, and another guy had disappeared. In the middle of the arena, the president says that now they can fight with everything they've got. Xian Feng says it doesn't matter and tells Lu Fan to show what he's made of. Our boy says he now understands who the person was that let Princess Jinsu do whatever she wanted. That explains why this test didn't seem right from the start. He summons Xiaowei and says that since he gave him permission, he's going all out. Xian Feng recognizes the dragon as the one the princess wanted to get rid of. But since he's level 76, something like that is irrelevant to him. He raises his sacred shield, confident that those attacks will feel like child's play. Xiaowei launches toward him. She activates the pressure ability to generate a stun effect, but the guy's shield blocks any negative effects. The vice president says it looks like it's going to be tricky since last time that move into the pavilion. Xian Feng says that's not going to work on him, but suddenly, without realizing it, he drops to his knees. The fear ability had been applied. Our boy approaches and asks how the envoy plans to assess him while kneeling in the middle of the fight. Xian Feng activates an ability that removes any stun effects and makes him immune for 2 minutes. He jumps toward Lu Fan, asking how he dares to try and humiliate him. But our boy stretches his arm to the side and asks if he really thought he was still taking it seriously. 2 portals appear and they're confused about what's coming next. Lu Fan simply says he's going to do what was asked. He's going all out, and it's time for Xian Feng to take this seriously. Xian Feng is shocked, wondering if Lu Fan really has 3 dragons. The vice president was about to intervene, but the president stops him. Our boy asks what all this talk of 3 is about. He activates Xiaofi's ability and summons 2 more bone dragons. Poor Xian Feng is trembling. The 2 wyvern souls have entered the field. The vice president wants to know since when Lu Fan had 5 dragons. The person behind the hood says it's a surprise to them too. I'm starting to think it's that trainer, right folks? Probably her for sure. Our boy then tells the special envoy, "Do you think I'm qualified to go to the national championship now?" Xian Feng wonders if he's really going to be defeated by this kid. He activates the divine light protection, but Xiaofi's attack lands squarely on his head. The vice president is worried that the poor guy might have been killed, but Xian Feng had summoned his mount, saying that Lu Fan was too young to think he could kill him so easily. Everyone notices that he seems to have fled, and the president says no one ever imagined the envoy would be beaten like this. Our boy compliments him, saying his mount really is impressive. But Xin Feng is convinced that without the summons, Lu Fan is nothing, so he just needs to land a direct hit. The divine protection still has 4 seconds left, so he plans to make the most of it. He warns that an amateur will always be an amateur. He charges toward Lu Fan, saying that even with so many dragons, he's still full of flaws. He uses the judgment attack, telling him to die. But Lu Fan had already activated Xiaoyi's protection. Shen Meng is shocked to see that only part of the shield had been broken. The worst part is that now his power is depleted, so he's in trouble. Our boy says that if it's a special envoy, there's no problem with doing this. The guy starts flying, wondering what Lu Fan is planning. What he didn't see was that Xingqian was already in front of him. With that, he gets electrocuted and takes a punch to the chest. The chubby guy falls to the ground like garbage. Our boy tells him to take a good look at himself. Where had the special envoy who came to teach him a lesson gone? Xin Feng was about to beg him to wait. But man, without mercy, our boy blows him up point blank. Smoke rises, and when it clears, poor Xin Feng is completely defeated. Our boy apologizes for killing his mount. But since he believes the national exam is something brutal, this kind of thing can happen. The vice president says that this should be over since it's clear that Lu Fan has already qualified. But Xin Feng tells him to be quiet because he's the one who decides when it's over. The vice president was about to say something, but the president says he won't last much longer. Considering Lu Fan's abilities, he knows that in theory, Lu Fan would be a perfect candidate. But Xin Feng won't allow it. No. Not this guy who made him lose his position and brought him shame. Xiao Fei was about to do something, but Lu Fan tells her to stay put. He easily dodges Xin Feng's attacks as Xin Feng complains that Lu Fan killed his mount. Regardless of what happens today, he's determined to kill him. He goes in for a slash but takes a kick to the chest. Man, the chubby guy goes down again. Our boy says losing your cool in the middle of a battle is extremely dangerous, and he warns Xin Feng that if he's trying to avenge Jinchu, he'll always be around for him to do whatever he wants. But he should remember that next time he shows up, he won't hold back. Xin Feng tries to get up but collapses on the ground, unconscious. At that moment, the vice president runs, telling someone to call a priest. The person behind says that Lu Fan hides it well, and she didn't expect him to have 5 dragons. The president asks how much power he really has, and Lu Fan explains that he hasn't even used the dragon's abilities. She then says that choosing him was the right decision. We all know who she is, right folks? It's definitely the teacher. While being hugged, our boy says she seems very familiar. The scene shifts to a level 60 region in the northern area. Someone sees that Lu Fan has qualified and comments that the boy is quite good. It's Reinhardt from Overwatch saying that Dragon City seems well represented. He calls for an officer who asks what the Lord wants. He tells him to prepare a griffin because he's heading to the Wangdu Academy. The officer wants to know if he's really planning to abandon the northern front. He says not to worry, he'll be back soon. He just needs to meet the representative and handle a certain matter. Back home, our boy is frustrated. This time, the treasure points to a place over 1,000 kilometers away. He thought treasure hunting might be a good idea at the moment, but it looks like it's too far away. He then merges the treasure and receives a new map. But this time, it's a god level 1, and he immediately calls his friend from before, saying there's a place he needs some information about. But at that moment, a meteor is heading toward his house. Our boy was about to talk about the extreme northern region when something explodes right in front of him. Man, a hooded figure observes the destruction. He pulls an emblem from his pocket. As shadows emerge, Xiao Fei is already attacking. Not just her, our boy had summoned everyone to escape from the flames. The guy seems to be trying to teleport, and our boy tells him to stay put. He lands a solid hit to the face and immediately recognizes the man as the professor who was beside the president that day. Meanwhile, the girls are trying to escape, calling for the firefighters. The guy says that now that he's been seen, he has no choice. He throws a chain around our boy's arm and activates an ability to self-destruct and take Lu Fan with him. Lu Fan is confused for a second, but quickly realizes this guy's plan. The girls tell him to calm down, they'll help him. But the guy's fire core keeps building up. He starts swelling, telling Lu Fan that there's no escape today, death awaits them both. Lu Fan tells Xiao Fei to prepare the Eternal Guardian to protect everyone. The whole group is then enveloped in a green aura. The value is already at 96%, and our boy knows this guy is about to blow himself up. He jumps toward him, saying the guy is crazy. But suddenly, a staff pierces through the man's chest, interrupting the ability. Lu Fan sees that it's Brahma's staff, the president's weapon. And with that, the chubby guy seems to be consumed by his own power. The staff moves and returns to the hand of the hooded figure. He then descends to talk to everyone, telling them not to worry, that he's fine. Auntie is crying and Kin Tu wants to know who that mage is. Looking at the corpse, he says he remembers seeing that person close to the professors. The vice president apologizes, saying he didn't expect an assassin to be after Lu Fan within the school. Our boy, however, asks why that man would do such a thing. The vice president tells everyone to calm down, that they'll investigate to understand the situation better. The next day, the president is shocked as this man had been at the academy for years and she never expected there to be a traitor like this. Though the entire academy was within her reach, had she been delayed even a little, the consequences would have been unimaginable. However, Reinhardt interrupts, saying that this boring place is quite dull. He tells her not to get upset, that he wasn't really listening, and asks why no one is questioning what he's doing here. The president apologizes for her selfishness and asks if he completed the mission in the north. He says no, but that he came to help with the problems they're having here. She asks what he means by that, and Reinhardt says he's planning to take this kid up north. That's because if everyone is hunting this boy here, he could take him to the north, where by his side, no one would kill him. The president agrees that it would be safer with him, but asks why the Duke of the North wants to spend time with the boy. He says he's been following Lu Fan's progress from the beginning, and besides, there's something he can help the boy with. The president understands, but says he must ensure that Lu Fan won't be put in danger. Reinhardt assures her not to worry, that he'll bring the boy back in one piece. Meanwhile, at the main gate of Longdu Academy, the princess's brother, Chenghin, had just arrived, and she happily runs to hug him. Chenghin tells her she's more important than any equipment. Jinchu asks if he'll help her get revenge. He replies that he'll definitely take down anyone who made her sad. Meanwhile, our boy had just received the map from that black rat. Jian Ying asks if he's going far, and Lu Fan admits that this time he's a bit intimidated by the place. The area on the map is vast, and he doesn't have much information about it. She then tells him that if he's going, he should say goodbye to everyone first. Just then, the doorbell rings, and he says he'll answer it, thinking it's the vice president. He opens the door, already talking, but who he finds is Reinhardt. Reinhardt says he hasn't brought the results of the investigation yet, but there's no need to worry, he's not a bad person. He explains that the bodyguards are asleep due to a misunderstanding and asks if Lu Fan can heal them. Startled, Lu Fan grabs his blade since the bodyguards had been prepared by the president. But Qin Chu recognizes Reinhardt as her uncle and asks why so many people are passed out. In the living room, Reinhardt says it's a good thing Qin Chu showed up, or else Lu Fan would have attacked him. Lu Fan apologizes, explaining that he's a bit on edge since he's been under attack recently. Reinhardt laughs, saying he heard that Lu Fan took down the national envoy, so it seems like he doesn't need any help. Qin Chu mentions that the great hero who once stood alone against a beast storm is here at the academy. Our boy is impressed, saying he's heard that story before. The old man smiles and says every generation has its incredible figures, but right now he's more interested in Lu Fan. He came specifically to the academy just for him, to take him to the far north for training. He had already discussed it with the president, and it's the best option for Lu Fan before the national test. The girls are worried, and Jiang says he can't get hurt before such an important event. Reinhardt explains that the far north is indeed a dangerous place, but that's exactly why it's a great place to train. Our boy wants to go, considering there's treasure there, but the problem is everyone's safety. Jiang says that if he wants to go, he just has to say the word. Thanks to him, they've all advanced to the second level, so it wouldn't be easy for them to be defeated. Our boy immediately agrees, saying he'll go to the north. The old man celebrates, saying that if that's the case, they'll have to drink a lot and have a feast to celebrate. Our boy says he'll buy everything and wake the rest of the people for dinner. Later that night, we see them at the city's training academy. Look who's visiting again. Folks, we know who it is already. She says she's been really busy lately, but if he's up for some practice, they can start. But our boy says he's there to say goodbye. She looks confused. Lu Fan explains that he's heading to the far north, so they won't see each other until the national test. She grabs his face, saying that in that place, he'll definitely learn a lot more than by sparring with her. Our boy is a bit embarrassed. He says he has to go because he still needs to say goodbye to everyone. But she grabs him. She says she doesn't have much to give him, but she puts a necklace in his hand, saying it will keep him safe. Then she tells him to do his best in the far north and that the national test will be easy. She asks him to bring her a piece of ice that doesn't melt when he returns. With that, she vanishes and only her hair sways. This boy is a bit crazy, isn't he? He's just going to tuck it into his pocket. Sometime later, he's heading home, but someone is following him. Our boy asks how long this person is going to stay on his tail. It's Chenghin, who says it wasn't easy to find him. Lu Fan asks why he's being followed. Chenghin opens his arms, saying that he's heard a lot about the boy and introduces himself as Jinchu's brother. He is here to leave a like in this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.